Hello, hello. How is everyone? Make sure my volume is off there. I am ready to go. So yeah, point of business. There won't be a stream next week or the week after because I'm going on a little vacation. The family and I are going to Palau. So finally going to another foreign country. I have not been to another foreign country since before. I mean Taiwan, right? I've been to Taiwan, but like I haven't been to a new foreign country since before COVID. We went to the Bahamas, like with our kid our first kid as a baby. So we're gonna go to Palau and see how it is. The interesting thing about like Taiwan is it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. When you actually look at the map, like it's relatively far flight wise, like to places like, Tokyo, Bangkok, stuff like that. So Palau is one of the closer places, but it's still like several hours away by plane. Let's see. What are some other fun things? I saw a very interesting question that I wanted to get to, which before we get into other stuff. And that was about the silver. Here it is. And this gets into this other question that was brought up. It's a very strong point about, whether Daenerys is a dragon seed. But so Left of You asks here, interested in what you think of the silver found in the Tower of the Hand, dating back to the first King Viserys and its possible connection to Larry Strong and other elements of Fire and Blood. So, what Left of You is talking about is in A Feast for Crows, after Tyrion escapes and Varys leaves as well, Cersei becomes paranoid, and in this situation, rightfully so. Cersei's not wrong all of the time, but we kind of assume that Cersei's like wrong all of the time. But she's actually kind of right in this situation. So she thinks that Tyrion might be hiding in the walls. In truth, Varys is hiding in the walls, but she sends Jaime to deal with all of the secret passages in the Tower of the Hand, and so Jaime goes in there with a whole bunch of people, and they just find all of these passages and all this shit back there, and it's so much that eventually Cersei's like, you know what, we just need to burn down the Tower of the Hand. And in retrospect, I'm like, Cersei should have just burned down the whole Red Keep. Like, she was right. She was absolutely right. But I remember my first read of A Feast for Crows thinking like, oh, Cersei's really paranoid. She doesn't need to be like burning down all of this stuff. But then at the end, like once you find out that no, Varys like still wasn't caught, you're like, no, she was completely justified. She was completely right. So one of the things they find back there, and this is really interesting, is that they find a bag of silver from the reign of the first Viserys. Now, when you find that bag of silver from the reign of the first Viserys, you immediately think, oh, it must be something like Larry Strong, like hiding in the walls, because it also says right after it, like they found a bunch of rats, and let me read the actual first quote actually, because it's an interesting quote of tarnished silver. Okay, so a passage to the black cells had been found, and a stone well that seemed to have no bottom. They had found a chamber full of skulls and yellowed bones, and 4 sacks of tarnished silver coins from the reign of the first Viserys. They had found 1,000 rats as well, but neither Tyrion nor Varys had been amongst them. And Jaime finally insisted on putting an end to the search. Now, if all of these like written products were written all at once. Like you'd be like, oh, that's clearly like Laurie's strong, and the rat connection is like the whole connection to the rat catcher, and Laurie's cheese and all of that. And I do think that, like, I do believe that, that is that connection. The only thing that gives me pause is that A Feast for Crows was written in 2005, and Fire and Blood stuff, Princess and the Queen, Rogue Prince, was written much, much later, you know, close to, I mean, that stuff came out in what, 2012, 2013, 2014, like that era. So, you know, you have to believe that like George was thinking about these events in A Feast for Crows, and then put them to page later on. The problem being that A Feast for Crows is filled with all sorts of stuff that contradicts Fire and Blood, like, you know, namely like Rhaenys and Kristen Cole, like their love affair being the thing that is mainly remembered from the realm, remembered of that time, and that Rhaenyra and Aegon were full-blooded siblings, which is still like written in there in A Feast for Crows. And so, you know, clearly he hadn't hammered out like the Feast for Crows information in the Soiled Knight and Arianne and the Queenmaker chapters. Like clearly that shows that George had not thought about Princess and the Queen and the Rogue Prince that much. And yet there's this like bag of silver from the Reign of Viserys that like so clearly points to Laria Strong and cheese and things like that. So it's confusing. So I mean, I suppose you can reconcile and just say, well, George had some ideas that had come together and some ideas that had not, and then he retconned a bunch of stuff and stuff like that. So I mean, it's very amazing that he was actually really thinking about Princess and the Queen and the Rogue Prince in detail as early as Cersei 3. I think is that from Cersei? Yeah, Cersei 3 is when he writes that very early Feast for Crows, right? Like stuff he'd written even before he knew that there was going to be a book split, you know, of A Dance with Dragons and A Feast for Crows. It's crazy stuff. Now this gets into Dario. Dario here had mentioned that. What about Daenerys being a dragon seed? Because the ideas of dragon seeds that the Targaryens were also practicing Lord's Right of the First Night was also introduced in Princess and the Queen. And so, which is a fairly late concept. You know, maybe George had thought about Lord's Right to the First Night for the Northerners, but he doesn't even really mention that until A Dance with Dragons and stuff like that. So he hasn't really put the Lord's Right to the First Night stuff in there until fairly late. Was he really planning for Daenerys to be a dragon seed all the way back in A Game of Thrones? And it's a very, very good point. And so my answer would probably be something like, well, George Gardens, he just kind of like puts stuff out there. He puts mysteries out there, and he doesn't really have a solution to it at the time. And then he kind of comes up with the solution later. So, I mean, honestly, I think that like when George was writing A Game of Thrones, maybe he had this idea that maybe Daenerys isn't who she thinks she is. I don't know who she is. But, you know, I'll come up with something later. And so like dragon seed being an opportunity like later on. But it's a very good point that, you know, when he was writing A Game of Thrones, he had no idea about the concept of dragon seeds. He wasn't even thinking about dragon seeds. That doesn't come much later. So, you know, he retcons a lot and he gardens a lot. He just like throws stuff out there and doesn't think about it. A lot of people bring up related to this when George started to think about the Blackfires and the Blackfire Rebellion and whether or not there would be a Dance of the Dragons. I do think that straight up from the beginning, from a Game of Thrones, he knew that there would be a Dance of the Dragons, like a second Dance of the Dragons. Like, the Dance of the Dragons is mentioned in the Game of Thrones appendix, but he didn't know it was going to be a Blackfire thing. He just kind of mentions randomly with Georg Mormont at the wall, talking about the history of Aemon, that like there was a succession dispute, at some point, and that's it. So you kind of know that there's a succession dispute at some point in Targaryen history. You just don't know, like, and that's clearly going to seed into Aegon, but you just didn't know, like, exactly what it was going to be, because he didn't really nail down, like, oh, I'm going to, like, steal Michael Moorcock's, like, stuff and make them into Blackfires and Bloodraven and all that shit. Like, he didn't, like, even the Three-Eyed Crow and all of that, like, maybe he knew the Three-Eyed Crow was Bran, but he didn't know it was going to be, Bloodraven sitting in a tree before that, as part of that either. He just kind of, had this character, this mysterious character, and then he kind of figured out who it was going to be later. So, I admit, like, it's probably the strongest piece of evidence that Dany is not a dragonseed is that the dragonseed concept doesn't come in until much later. But I figure that George knew something was wrong with Daenerys' backstory. He just hadn't come up with it yet. Count Balerion says that Rhaenyra's cooties will destroy the realm. That is a pretty good joke, because that is essentially, as we're going through overanalyzing House of the Dragon, man, like, it just, when you go through it line by line, you don't think about it, like, when you read the whole thing, like, generally, you don't think about it too much, but you go through it line by line, you're like, oh my god, they're so fucking scared of, like, of Rhaenyra having sex, and, like, it's so important that, like, Rhaenyra is having sex, and to convince you that Rhaenyra is a horrible person because she's having sex, and there's just not very much evidence of it. But every time Preston mentions a chapter, I bookmark and read through. Yeah, I mean, there's some. There's so many little Easter eggs in A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons that George definitely changed his writing style as he went on. What will be Marwyn's fate? That's a very good question. I mean, I think he'll eventually be killed at some point, but will he? I think he's going to show up and try to be an advisor for Daenerys. I think that's just too interesting an idea for him to show up. He's a fascinating character. He's an interesting character. Like, why on earth would you ever want to, like, not have that character be part of the story moving forward? Like, he's one of the best characters that we have. Just like something you wouldn't expect, right? All the Maesters are one way, and then he's just this really ridiculous, like, vulgar, overly honest, like, dude. He's, he definitely, I don't know how he would react with Tyrion, though. He seems like he's stomping on Tyrion's area, right? Like, Tyrion is the whole, like, intelligent but vulgar guy, and Marwyn is that. So it seems like they'd be occupying the exact same place and would not like each other. Like, they'd be competing. So, like, where would Marwyn go if not to Daenerys? I mean, is he Makoro and he'd actually be advising Victarion? I don't know. But it's just, although Makoro's okay, Marwyn's a better character than Makoro. So it seems like a waste to take this incredible character like Marwyn, hide him as Makoro, and have him be less interesting. Like, it's. I mean, Makoro is pretty interesting. It's just that he's less interesting than Marwyn, which is too bad, So yeah, it's a hard thing. Like, what do you do with Marwyn when he's so similar to Tyrion? You have him in having him in the same place. I almost wish, like, Tyrion doesn't. I almost wish Tyrion doesn't end up with Daenerys, or he misses her and he has to go end up with her much later. Do you like the scouring of the Shire in Lord of the Rings? Um, I think this is going to be like weird hot take. I think that a lot of the epilogue of the Lord of the Rings kind of goes on, and it ends up in a weird place. Epilogues are really difficult to do. Because, you have this climax to the story. And once the climax is hit, what do you do, like, going on? And then we actually had this problem with season 8, right? Like, the climax of the story should have been the fight with the White Walkers. And then we kind of have this, like, epilogue with this like, second climax. And then even after the second climax with Cersei, you then have this weird episode of walking around rubble, talking about stuff, and then Daenerys getting stabbed, and then another epilogue of city, small council and stuff like this. And it just kind of felt like you're kind of rambling on, like you told the story and we're still here. I recently watched His Dark Materials, and His Dark Materials has. Man, they did a great job with the epilogue, like an epilogue aspect to the series. I don't want to spoil it, but like they have the climax in the next to last episode, and you're like, well, what else is there to the story? And then they kind of have this like very sad, powerful epilogue that is really quite beautiful. And it fits really well. So Scouring of the Shire, like, I don't know, like, if it really like fit. I mean, I kind of understand why Peter Jackson cut it from his movies, even though his epilogue went on way too long as well, but let's see here. My pad is out. There we go. Come on, reconnect here. So yeah, it's a very difficult things writers do. Like, how much time do you go past the climax and explain things? Because that's the end of your story. Like, you can kind of you kind of want to know what these characters do, but you don't want to just like hang out for no reason. What do you think A Song of Ice and will be A Song of Ice and Fire scouring? I mean, in Game of Thrones, they had the scouring of the Shire essentially with the King's Landing stuff. And I don't know, like, I suppose that was his plan to have this, like, you have your big climax with the White Walkers, and then you have this, like, more real, destruction of home, like you can never go back kind of idea. But it's, I don't know, didn't necessarily work in Game of Thrones. George R. Martin's other writing doesn't have that much epilogue. Like, his other writing is he has a climax, and then he'll have like one chapter, half a chapter, to like close things out, to give things a kind of beautiful ending. George R. Martin's climaxes are very fast. They kind of come out of nowhere. Like, you're going the whole story, and then all of a sudden there's this climax, and it's a little anticlimactic, and then it's a very kind of brief epilogue. And I'm just thinking about his novels, like Dying of the Light, Armageddon Rag, Fever Dream, and how they ended. There's not much time to wrap everything up. He's got all these plot threads going all at once, and then they kind of all come together like really fast, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then there's this very, very short epilogue afterwards where you're wanting more. There's so much mystery. George R. Martin is into creating mystery and not explaining everything. So, like, he would never pull Lord of the Rings, where we know what happens to every goddamn character. Like, oh, like Mary got married and he had these many children and they had these many children, and please read the appendix on everything that happened. No. Like he would not explain everything. So it'll be a little different. I think there's just going to be a lot of Dragon Demands is being sarcastic here. He's like, stealing from Michael Moorcock, but Bloodraven is an original character. A major arc do you think that'll have the worst conclusion? Well, I mean, we're kind of going off Game of Thrones. Like, what arc do you think had the worst conclusion in Game of Thrones? I would argue Arya. Like, I would argue that Arya's conclusion was really, really stupid. It had nothing to do with her character. It like thematically made no sense. Like, you've got this girl who loses her innocence and goes into this dark, dark period, and then goes around like into this like life of revenge, and then she decides to go traveling. Like, it just doesn't make any, like, there's no, like, what are you saying thematically? What are you saying morally? What like, it's just, why keep her alive? It's just, you know, there's just, so there are better ways to end Arya. Would George be as lazy than that? You think like she would have something, but I'm guessing it's still going to be Arya. She's a hard one to come back from. Like, how can there be redemption for that character? How can there be anything like left after everything she's been through? That's just not realistic. But maybe they had something, you know, maybe she'll choose to leave people alive or something, you know. I think in my, like, one of my fixed videos, I had her like run into Ilan Payne and choose not to kill him, like to formally reject her death list at the end, like the man who beheaded her father, you know. Hello. How are you?
Hey. What's up with your boy, bro?
My Bolsonaro? Your boy? Is that my boy?
In Florida? That's where all the Brazilians love to go. I'm sorry, you're in the middle of this question. Go ahead.
No, I finished that one. But thank you, Kevin. And what do you think of the theory that Leaf from Bran's story is Nettles from Fire and Blood? Nah, I mean, it's just like, what would be the point to that? What would be the absolute point? There'd just be no point to that. Nettles is much more interesting as like a little girl who like did this incredible feat and came out of nowhere. She's much more interesting as Nettles than she is as like a child of the forest that explains like how she rode a dragon. But yeah, Carmine, how you doing? What's your mom
Fine.
think of what do your parents think of the Brazil situation?
My mother, I told her, do you know Bolsonaro's in Florida with you? She's like, what? Why? I go, well, you know, I guess he's smarter than Trump. He knew to live the country. And she goes, okay, cool. My mother does not care about politics at all. She doesn't. She did like Lula though back in the day. My grandma as well loved Lula way back when. By the way, remind me to tell you the story about how I got into like a fucking huge debate about Nettles in the House of the Dragon show.
Oh, really?
How it was called a raging racist because I thought, hey, we should have Nettles, who has dark skin in the books. We should have Nettles be like someone other than like a black person play Nettles in the show. Apparently, I'm a racist for that. I think that we should have like more representation from around the world, you know? Because whenever Hollywood does diversity, it's always, you know, throw some black people in there, call it a day. But Asians, Hispanics, Arabic, like you never really get that much in Ice and Fire. So
yeah, I mean that's true because it's cast and you know it's usually British people that are cast, right? And so because of British colonialism, there are black people in England, but there's not as many Latin Americans. Yeah, I mean I see what you're saying.
Latin Americans in there, fuck it.
What was that?
By the way, throw some Latin Americans in there. Fuck it. But real quick, Lincoln Marie said something that I think it's important to touch on. He said, "You and Carmine often say interviewing would be useless, but the questions of when he came up with ideas like these would be really interesting to unpack. You didn't ask questions about the future." No, not really. Hey, I'm sorry, Lincoln, but about having George R. R. Martin on the podcast for like an interview. There's nothing interesting. He's already answered all these questions, though. Can you think
Yeah.
of one
Well,
interesting thing?
one like George R. R. Martin
George?
himself, like we're too small. We're too small for George to care about us. Like, you know,
That's actually not true. I'm not going to name any names, but there's a terrible, awful Ice and Fire channel who's been doing this for a decade. They might as well quit. They had him on recently and kept interrupting him.
I
Not
know.
going to name any names.
Look. I know, but that's, it's a little different. It's a little different because like they like plan conventions and things like that, and are, they spent years like doing behind the scenes work to like talk to people and stuff to get them. So I just don't know. Like, I just don't think like George would waste his time with someone as small as me, and I don't know he'd really answer my questions. So like, George likes to be evasive. He's very evasive. So
Yes, and by the way, shout out to these guys are out of their mind. Shout out to House of the Stag podcast. One of the guys on is a buddy of mine, Ricardo. They keep getting like these random actors to come on. They got Theo, fucker guy who played Laenor, third Laenor. And
oh really?
I'm like, damn, that's really, yeah, like that's really cool. But at the same time, what would I have to say to this guy? Like.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like
filming it.
Like how much do the actors have insight on things? Now, I admit that like some actors do. Like I saw interviews with Emily Carey, and Emily Carey really, really, really thought about her character, and but it all depends on like the type of actor they are. Are they a method actor? Like, do they need to get into the role and feel like they're living the role, or are they just gonna like say the lines like Stephen Delane, like a Stannis actor, he just went in and said his lines. So like Emily Carey like really, really, really thought about everything, and her like listening to her talk about her experience is fascinating. It's fascinating, but actors like her are like, I don't know if they're few and far between, but I think they're kind of in the minority, the ones that are going to be putting that much work into like really thinking about the story and her role in it. But I don't know. Will Sam and Jorah meet in the books? I don't see them meeting in the books. What I would like to have, I see Gilly and Jorah meeting in the books. But the reason they met in the show is because Jorah had the grayscale and needed to go to the Citadel to get cured for the grayscale, right? And he doesn't have grayscale in the books. Like, that's John Connington, right? So the function is different. Now there is this interesting line where like Gior, his dying wish is for like Jorah to join the Watch and things like that. And it seems like a Chekhov's gun, like that message needs to get to Jorah. But I think Gilly is a more obvious person to take that message than Sam, who frankly needs to be at the Citadel for a while. He needs to use his glass candle. He needs to study. He needs to deal with whatever the Euron plot is. He needs to be the perspective there. So it's he's not going anywhere. Jorah is in the middle of Slaver's Bay. They're certainly not going to meet in the Winds of Winter. But will they? Would they meet in the Dream of Spring eventually? Maybe. But at that point, like, things are so far in motion. Like, him to be like, Jorah, you need to join the Watch. Like, so I think Gilly is the more interesting one to bring any messages to Jorah rather than Sam. But those are your favorite scenes, right, Carmine? Sam cutting off Jorah's grayscale in Game of Thrones.
That's all it took, really? Like that's how you cure grayscale? How did Shireen get cured of it?
I don't know. I mean, the whole thing, like, she was young and some maesters, like, I don't know, dipped her in vinegar. I don't know. They don't really go into like how I don't. They
Let
don't
me
really
take
go
Obama
into
off
how
this.
they did it. Just that it can only be done on children.
Let me take Obama out of here because that every time I look at his Obama just has an infectious laugh. Holy shit.
Um. Will George R. R. Martin beef up Rickon's role in the story after the show? And do you know what you were going to do with him in the fanfic? Cannibal Rickon or Abomination? Um. I don't know if Rickon is gonna like. I don't know if I'm gonna have Rickon have a huge role. Just because the story is very crowded, and so I don't know. I don't know about that. As for like what George thought, I think George was playing with the idea that he might be an alternate, like special person, if it wasn't Bran. But I don't know if he's going to follow through with that. I definitely think he was thinking about it. But going off the show, because the show is kind of does tell us what a little bit of what George was at least originally thinking. He might have changed his mind, but I do think that like Bran. Let's say Rickon is taken back, and he gets into Stannis' hand, and then Ramsay is able to trick Stannis and win, and then gets a hold of Rickon and then kills him. That's not out of the question. Kind of idea to happen. So it's there, but as for like Rickon, like for him being a cannibal on we'll see what he was up to with Davos and everything on the island, but it seems like he might be back. I mean, it's just the OSHA related questions that Crow's Food asked Jane Poole are just kind of interesting, So when Theon escapes with Jane Poole, they run to Crow's Food, and he asks her like who the cook was, who the blacksmith were at Winterfell, and so she's able to recognize that it's Gage and Mikken, and if Osha were going to know two characters, she would know Gage, her lover, and she would know Mikken, whose mark is on all of the swords. So it's interesting that the two characters that he asks about are Osha related, which makes you think that Osha at least is back from Skagos. I mean, he could have asked anybody. He could have asked about Septon Shale. I don't know, but he doesn't. Like he asks about specifically Gage, which the only thing we know about Gage is that he was fucking Osha. So. Was Randyll right to send Sam to the wall? Sam gets laid, becomes more confident, gets a cool name, loses weight, and is on track to be a maester. No. Keep in mind that the way George has set up the story, that Sam's insecurity is caused by Randyll. Like Randyll is the one that caused him to be the way he is. He was harassing Sam as a young kid to be a man at age 7 or 8, and he created Sam's insecurity. And it just got worse and worse was the idea. And then keep in mind that Sam is 15 or 16 when the story begins, and he had actually spent the last years, a good number of years. I'm trying to think when Dickon is born, Rickon Tarly, because he the bullying from see, Dickon is born, yes, sometime around 87 to 90, so he's like 10. So the idea is that we kind of have this idea that, oh, like Randyll is bullying this almost adult Sam. He's not. So Sam, Randyll Tarly's bullying is of child Sam, and when Sam turns like 11 or 12, like, it's very clear that Randyll has switched all of his love and hope for the future and put it into Dickon, and he completely leaves Sam alone. And Sam actually describes having like a bunch of years of that are pretty happy and free from torment, like once this switch happens. So like Sam is not harassed from age like 11 to 15, but is harassed from like age 6 to 11. So like all of that shit about like dressing him up and like beating him up with like weapons and like parading him around as a girl and making fun of him and bathing him in blood and bringing warlocks in and bathing him with blood. That's when he was a child. And when he's like a teen, when he's a teenager or preteen, that's when like he's left alone to do whatever he wants. So everything's kind of backwards. So you have to keep that like in mind. So like, was Randyll right to send him to the wall? Well, what he should have done was never harass Sam in the first place. Like, but was Sam like, if it were not for Jon Snow, like Sam's like fate at the wall would have been really horrible. Like, you know, like he would have been just harassed and beaten up until he like got killed by others. Like he would have they would have continued to bully him if it weren't for Jon Snow like pulling him out and having him be Aemon's assistant, you know, like that. And so like what actually made Sam more confident? Like, was it the fighting? Not really, you know, like Sam describes the things that made him a better person as being around Gilly, like seeing like Gilly like as an example of like a strong person. And it's not like Gilly's a fighter, like, you know, so like it was Gilly's example and Maester Aemon's example that makes Sam into a more confident person. Not any of the manly stuff. Like, you're still like, people are still in this mindset that like, oh, we just got to like beat into him being a little more manly and confident. It's just, George is clearly saying that that's not how it works. Like, that's George's statement. Like, you can't beat being a confident man into somebody. Like, and so no, Randyll was definitely wrong. And Sam doesn't even start losing the weight until he leaves the wall, you know? So, favorite major house, mine is Lannister. I mean, I like Aaron, you know, like,
I think you've answered this already like 40 times from the same.
Yeah. I do like Aaron. I do like Martell. I do like.
What?
I do
Your
like.
favorite
Great.
house is House Aaron?
I like Aaron. Yeah, I like Aaron a lot.
If only there was if there was a clue somehow.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. But I also like Martell. I like Greyjoy. I like all of the. A Feast for Crows is my favorite book, and I like the houses that appear in that. It's not that I don't think House Lannister is damn interesting, but there's so many characters in House Lannister that make it interesting is the reason, you know? We all think Jaime and Cersei are really interesting, but you start meeting Lance. I think Lancel is super interesting. I love Kevin's epilogue. What is it? Stefan Lannister, the guy with the beard that he that's
Jenna's
growing the
awesome.
beard. Or is that Devin? What is his name? Who's the one that's growing get Davin? Davin. He's the one growing the beard. He's an interesting character. I even like his aunt. Jaime's aunt is really
Is it
interesting.
Jenna or Gemma? I feel like it's Jenna. I forgot.
I think there was a misprint, And I think she's called both in the book at some point, which is why I think there's some confusion. Like Gemma versus Jenna. It might have been corrected, but I think it's Jenna. But I think it's at one point it was misprinted somewhere as Gemma, even though it's Jenna. Yeah. But as small as Preston, but he's like 6'4". I'm actually close to 6'6". A bit left of you. Thanks again. Yeah. I was watching Pat Finnerty. You know, Pat Finnerty is this YouTuber I really like. He's completely underrated, but he had this term called everyday tall, and everyday tall means like somebody mentions that you're tall every day. And yes, that happens to me every day, you know. Every day somebody says, in fact, like just this morning, like I'm waiting for the elevator and the guy's like, "Oh, you know, oh, ni hao gao." And I'm like, "Oh, you know, xiao haizi de shihou wo he nunai." And he's like, "Oh." Essentially, I was like, he's like, "Oh, you're really tall." I'm like, "Oh yeah, when I was a little kid, I drank a bunch of milk." And he's like, "Oh." You know, I'm sure the same happens to you, Carmine.
Fuck you. How about that?
Huh? Let's see. Isn't it kind of weird that they didn't send Aegon and Rhaenys with Rhaella and Viserys to Dragonstone? I'm trying to. We're talking about House of the Dragon here. I imagine. I'm trying to piece everything together because about the time period who we're talking about. Oh no, we're talking about. It's funny because all these names get reused. We're talking about Viserys the Third and Daenerys, right? Isn't it weird that they didn't send Aegon and Rhaenys to with Rhaella and Viserys? Well, no, it's not weird because the king was using them as hostages, so for to keep both Rhaegar in line and the Dornish in line. So like Aegon and Rhaenys and Elia were hostages to keep the Dornish in line and to keep he wanted them close and to keep Rhaegar in line. And so he was you know, separating his people out to you know, not keeping his treasures in the same place, the idea, but also like he needed to have them close by in order to you know, have a threat or something. Now, you know, it's like, could he conceivably just like put them on Dragonstone and then have a letter and say like, "Oh, kill those kids," or whatever, kill Elia, keep the Dornish in line? Probably, but this is the idea. There's also some weird stuff about Viserys was according to the world of Ice and Fire. The Mad King switched his heir. That he disinherited Aegon and Rhaenys and made Viserys his heir, which is really, really quite weird. And I mean, maybe not weird in the sense that like, you know, there's issues of like the Dornish and there's issues of like Rhaegar trying to usurp his father and stuff like that. So, you know, switching his heir was perhaps a normal thing in that situation. It's not taught, like no one's brought it up in the main story, but it seems like a pretty relevant thing. And this, like, back in the day of like the fandom being only talking about R plus L equals J all day long, a lot of people like brought up the Kingsguard as evidence. They're like, well, the Kingsguard would had to be defending the king at the Tower of Joy, and that's why they're there, and that proves that like it proves that like Lyanna was birthing like Rhaegar's baby and that they were married, because otherwise why would they be there? But in reality, like, Viserys was declared the heir. He was king. Like, they should have been defending Viserys. And George gives the explanation in A Dance with Dragons. Barristan clearly says, like, Kingsguard can be dispatched to do whatever you want. Okay? There's no, like, I must defend the... This isn't iRobot, where they're sitting there, like thinking about the robot laws and like being like, well, I can't hurt a human, but I have to take orders from humans, like beep boop boop boop, like calculating it out. Like, that's not how Kingsguard work. They just do what they're fucking told. Like, let's see. Implication of Carl's right to the first night. So we're talking about, like, Carl the maid ends up having sex with Asha after she's married in exile, and so this idea that, like, you know, he's actually had the Lord's right of the first night on her or something, you know. I don't think the implication of that sex is not that Carl, like, is getting in on the Lord's right of the first night or anything like that. I think the implication is just that they had sex. She didn't take her moon tea. She thinks, like, oh, I better take my moon tea. He freaking came inside of me. I better do that. Now we're fighting Stannis, and then we're on a long march for like 2 months. Like, you know, the implication is that Asha's pregnant, you know. And so what does that mean? Like, what is Asha's, like, you know, is she gonna not be mobile as she gets more and more pregnant? You know, does her child have the rights to anything? You know, being a bastard? Were people willing to follow her as, like, a clear... As somebody that's clearly had sex outside of wedlock? Like, there's a lot of things that, like, you know, happen because she might be pregnant. You know, so it's more to do with that. Like, even if that's the thing, is, like, her whole plan is to get Theon to, based on all the things set up in the Wayward Bride chapter. Like, you know, they talk about how a Kingsmoot can be annulled, and the way a Kingsmoot can be annulled is if you prove that a major claimant was left out. Well, yeah, of course a major claimant was left out. Theon fucking Greyjoy, right? Like, it's pretty obvious that, like, she needs Theon to annul the Kingsmoot and call a new one. But even if they called a new one, and she's sitting there, like, you know, pregnant, like, what are you know, the religious people of the Iron Islands going to think about this woman who's clearly had sex outside of wedlock? So who knows? Unless she's going to go around and claim that it was her husband's, like, even though they were married he married a seal or something. But I think that's the bigger implication is that. Next series after overanalyzing House of the Dragon, like a whole full overanalyzing. No, but there's some other videos that I'm going to be producing. Like I say, like, I'm going to be producing one on what births dragons, and I'm going to be producing one on an apology for Daemon Targaryen, on how he can actually be perceived as a hero if you read the text a certain way. That he can actually be seen as a rather pure, not super pure. It's hard that dually fights with the son of the Sea Lord of Braavos it's hard to really absolve him of that. But, like, you know, I nonetheless, there's going to be a series a video on how one could perceive Daemon as being a good guy. Or at least much better than how he's portrayed. But next series after overanalyzing, I mean, I was looking at how far I am in overanalyzing. So we're like 14 episodes in, and we're about 2/3 through the Rogue Prince, or we're about 2/3 of the way through Heirs of the Dragon. So we're getting to the point where we're about to, a few more episodes, maybe 7 more episodes or whatever. We're into, then we get into Princess and the Queen. The Princess and the Queen is, I think, longer. So you're talking like another 20, 25 episodes for Princess and the Queen, at least. So overanalyzing House of the Dragon will probably have close to 50 entries, I'm guessing, by the time we get to the end of it, if it keeps going. Everybody's like Gemma for sure. Jenna. Jenna suffers a worse fate than Aeron in The Forsaken. She's married to a Frey. I mean, a lot of people get married to Freys, Not all the Freys are bad, right? Yeah, you've got Stefan Frey. He was supposed to be a nice guy. Walder's original heir. Stevron is, I think, his name. Stevron Frey. Stevron Frey is supposed to be nice. Not to mention Oliver. Things like that. I'm trying to think of some other pretty good Freys. Walder has his. I admit that Red Wedding is a bit bad, but the fact that he likes his entire family is pretty nice. There's nothing wrong with Jingle Bell. I like Jingle Bell. He's a good guy. I never thought there was anything wrong with Peter Pimple. Poor Peter Pimple, right? I got nothing against Fairwalda, nothing against Stefan. A lot of these Freys haven't done anything. Like, I don't think Rhaegar Frey, and he might be murdered by Manderly. I don't think Rhaegar Frey did anything wrong. We got nothing wrong with like Bloodborne. I guess he's a bandit. I've heard very good arguments that Fat Walda, there's nothing really wrong with Fat Walda. So there's a lot of good Freys out there, and I like, there's nothing wrong with Gatehouse Amy. Gatehouse Amy, like, she's good. She's a good woman. She's a good woman. She's just she's just a little sexually active. No love for Tyrion. He's the most interesting. Carmine, how do you feel about Tyrion?
Yo, you do this all the time, by the way. Because Preston, anytime Tyrion comes up, he goes, "Yeah, Tyrion's cool," but then he did that one thing, where he raped that woman and he killed his father, and then his former ex or his former girlfriend. By the way, are you wearing earbuds? Do you have your Apple earbuds in?
No.
I think that's why I'm echoing and coming through your speakers.
Oh, okay. I mean, you're probably just like coming out of my computer and going into my. But yeah, exactly. No, look, Tyrion's a very entertaining character. He's great. I mean, all of the characters are very entertaining. But that's the thing, is like when I go down, like, it's a competition, right? Like how many characters, like what chapter would you rather read? Would I rather read an Aeron Damphair chapter than a Tyrion chapter? Yes, I would. Would I rather read a Quentin Martell chapter? Like, I ask myself, like, The Winds of Winter is coming out. Like, what chapter do you want? Like, do I want a Sam chapter? Yeah, I do. Do I want a Jon Snow? Do I want a Jon Connington? Yeah, those would all be preferable. So you start like looking at them and you're like, well, all these other people come before. Like, where does Tyrion end up? And you're like, oh gosh, like, he's great, he is, but it's like I love all of the other characters more, I think is the question, is the thing, it's it's hard just because, like, yeah, he's super interesting, but at this point you're I kind of like have got it, like, yeah, Tyrion, like, he's really upset about Tysha, he has got problems with his family, You know, where else are we gonna bring the character? What else is there to like say about him? I don't, you know, like we all know like everything about Tyrion. He's just this mess. He's just this absolute mess. And I don't know if there's anything more like super interesting about where his character's gonna go. Like, yeah, he'll probably go back and like be in some like kin slaying situations, and he's probably gonna fall in love with Daenerys and all of that. He's so much less interesting than all the other characters, unfortunately. Like, he's great. The Tyrion chapters are great, but it's just it's on the curve. He's near the bottom, which is really weird considering how good he is, right? Like that I don't really care where his story goes so much. Like everybody else's stories seem more interesting. Food for thought. Dragon riders who outlive their dragon, Jaehaera, Baela, have mentally ill, suicidal personality change. Although Baela is labeled wild Arya-like character. Yeah, no, that's worth noting. It's I think you have that mental bond, and then if the creature is killed, then obviously like there's this deep loss that you've lost like some sort of child. They make a big deal out of this in like his Dark Materials as well, because like all the characters in his Dark Materials all have their souls like manifest in animals, and so they're like with these animals, and like, you know, they can't be separated from them. And then like the main character gets separated from her animal, and she's like, there's this like huge loss like that she feels like that's like agony for her. But yeah, I think that it would be quite traumatic to have this like thing that's like a part of you like be killed. Do you think the Dunk and Egg show will go forward? Yeah, I think
We just did a video on that.
we did just do a video on it. I think if there's one show, I think if there's one show that George is fighting for, I think if there's one show that has the best material, it would be Dunk and Egg. Like, I think the only other one that has a shot, I think, is Jon Snow, just because of the Kit Harington thing and it being like a sequel and people wanting to know where the character goes. But I think Dunk and Egg has a better shot just because it has the source material. And I think they, you know, perhaps learn their lesson with House of the Dragon having source material, and they're like, okay, things are going well with House of the Dragon. We've got adapted source material. Good. We can claim this is George R. R. Martin's stuff. Dunk and Egg has that too. None of the others would have that, you know? Like 10,000 Ships would be pretty much fresh, right? Sea Snake would be fresh. Jon Snow would be fresh. So like, it's I think Dunk and Egg. I think if a show does go forward, it would be Dunk and Egg. I don't know, unless you think Carmine that it would be Snow.
That's a really big debate, because does HBO want to go forward into the future of the Ice and Fire world beyond Game of Thrones, or do we want to do another spin-off in the past? Past is safer because Snow, I don't know, like Snow, that one's weird. It could get a lot of people coming in to see what the fuck's happening post Game of Thrones, but at the same time, Dunk and Egg, that's the safer choice. There's material there. George is heavily involved with it. That's a debate. By the way, you did miss one super chat from Miss Camilla.
Oh, is it possible that Howland saved Ned by talking rather than fighting backstabbing? Love the idea of them making a plan together and faking some deaths. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, that's you know, I years and years ago, and this conversation I had with this person like is still in my memory because it was so like frustrating. But years and years ago, I had this person like talking to me about their idea about like, you know, Mance Rayder being Rhaegar, and he kept framing it like Like, it was so obvious, and that I should be seeing the evidence, and he's and like presenting things like halfway, like, and it's still stuck in my head, like how like how frustrating the guy, like having a conversation with that guy was. But his idea was that if you look at this is worth bringing up. Okay, this is kind of fun. Let me get I need to, okay. Okay, let's first do this. Okay, let me shrink this. Come on. You got, I wish they would, like, sometimes it's like I don't want it to take up the entire screen. Here we go. All right. Okay. And then Ned's companions. So Ned's like, so this was this whole thing that like Mance Rayder is secretly Rhaegar, and that like other people up north are secretly Arthur Dayne and Went and stuff like this. That everybody's a hidden somebody. The Corrin Halfhand is secretly Arthur Dayne and all of this stuff. And so the question is like, well, how did they get north? Well, the idea is that somehow like his like Ned's companions are what, like Wall, Risewell. I'm trying to get it all together. Like his Howland Reed, Dustin. Let me see here. Okay, his companions are Howland Reed, William Dustin, Ethan Glover, Martin Cassell, Theo Wool, Mark Risewell. And he's like, oh, well, if you look at like those companions, you've got in the neck, starting with the neck, you've got Howland Reed. And then you've got like Ethan, then you've got Cassell doesn't really fit, but like next would be Dustin and Risewell, like in the lands south. And then you'd go up the left side and you'd hit Glover. And then you'd go up the left side even more, and you'd get Wool, and that you'd then get to the Wall, where Mance Rayder was at the Shadow Tower. And so even if it's not like literal, like they were actually stopping on a ship the whole time, the argument was, oh, this was like these companions are an arrow to like send the reader to the Wall, like the whole way. Except for Martin Cassell, which doesn't really make any sense. Like, like there's always like that one thing that we're like, well, what about like, like the theory that like all of Sansa's people that she was engaged to are like the people at the Ashford tourney. And you're like, except she was supposed to get married to Sweet Robin, and there wasn't any Aaron at the it's like, oh, never mind that, never mind the one that doesn't fit, but like, so this idea is that like they're at the Tower of Joy, they go down to Starfall, and then by ship they somehow are able to head north, stopping at these places in the north to let people know, and then like taking Mance Rayder and these other people to the Wall. It's always a possibility. I think that it's very, very difficult to figure out what Ned did to make the Danes love him so much. Like bringing back the family sword doesn't seem like it's enough to name a child after you, and so one could argue like, oh well, he let our son like go to the Wall. Okay, maybe I don't know if that's still enough to name a child after you. So it's got to be something big. But no, I've never heard a very good explanation on what it is. I mean, there's some complicated ones about like, different marriages and stuff, and keeping certain things a secret, and and stuff that would screw stuff up. Like I think my original like R plus L equals D, B plus A equals J kind of thing like came up with that kind of idea. That the John would be the heir to Starfall, and that screws things up. So he takes him away so that they can have somebody else be the heir. What will Justin Massey think if she's preggers? Justin Massey wouldn't give a shit. Justin Massey would be like, whatever. Like he just wants a castle. Justin Massey just wants the Iron Islands. That's why, I mean, he thinks Asha's hot and he thinks she's interesting, I'm sure. But like he's interested in Asha because he thinks if he marries Asha, he can start ruling the Iron Islands. That's what he wants. Justin Massey's awesome. So I think if like he found out that she was pregnant, he'd just be like, okay, cool. Well, you're having a bastard. That's fine. You're gonna have a trueborn child with me, The white stag. I don't know what this is about, but it's interesting that I haven't heard many people talk about the original white stag. Carmine, have you heard anybody like when House of the Dragon came out? And there was the White Stag episode. Do you know about the original White Stag?
Wasn't the original White Stag like something? Wasn't it like Robert wanted to find it or something? It's been so long since I know what you're talking about.
They call it a white hart. I mean, a hart and a stag are the exact fucking same thing. It's a male deer. It's the exact fucking same thing. So it's really weird that stag is used so much in Ice and Fire and hart is not. But like, for the purpose of the white hart, they bring it up. But yeah, they spot a white hart in the Kingswood, and so that Robert wants to go hunt it, and that's it. Like white harts, and they say that white harts are supposed to be very rare and magical, and so it might be a sign that somebody says that there's a line that's like, Sansa took a sip of milk and changed the subject. I had a dream that Joffrey would be the one to take the white hart. I had more of a wish actually, but it sounded better to call it a dream. Everyone knew that dreams were prophetic. White harts were supposed to be very rare and magical, and in her heart she knew that a gallant prince would be worthier than his drunken father. And then when they finally found the white hart, some wolves had eaten it first. Which, it's funny because like, had that happened later in the story, people would be like, "Oh, that was clearly Nymeria," but like, but it happened it happened fairly early, so no one's like, "No, it's just some random wolves." So, but that's it. Like, there was this legend that like white harts were supposed to be like magical and prophetic, and so Robert goes off hunting to try to find the white hart and doesn't find it. Gets eaten by wolves. But no one ever talks about that with House of the Dragon, how they took that plot line from the original series. Tyrion is the most a Song of Ice and Fire point of view, the most self-aware point of view. He's definitely the most self-aware. I think the most A Song of Ice and Fire point of view is Hota, but because he just talks in a completely different fashion as everybody else. The most A Song of Ice and Fire character is definitely Littlefinger. Like, the way he talks is completely different from the way everybody else talks. It's really weird. But yeah, Tyrion's definitely the most self-aware. Even though he messes up. could Illyrio have Edric Storm and use him to gain support in the Stormlands for young Griff? Yeah, this is an old theory that so this gets into who holds Storm's End and how people might take Storm's End. So there was a theory that, well, Courtney Penrose, it was really important to Courtney Penrose that like Edric Dane, because Courtney Penrose is super attached to Edric Storm. And so the thing that was keeping Courtney Penrose from surrendering was the fact that he was fearful that Stannis was going to try to kill Edric Storm. And Stannis did try to kill Edric Storm. Like, this was... Well, Stannis denies it, but, you know, it would totally... Courtney Penrose was right. Like, Edric Storm's life was in danger. Davos came around to this belief, and it's the whole reason for him, like, stealing away Edric Storm in the middle of the night and all of this. And it gets... I suppose... I mean, the whole thing is supposed to parallel... you know, Daenerys's escape and things like this, and whether or not, like, would Robert have killed her, or would Robert have killed Jon Snow and things like this. And I suppose you could argue that, like, you know, even though Stannis denies that he would ever kill anyone one of his own blood, like, maybe he'd come around to it because, you know, Renly his subconscious does it, his Renly gets killed. And he's certainly killing his wife's kin right and left. Now, but the question is, like the purpose of Edric Storm was to seed the Davos story, you know, and like cause the tension between Davos and Stannis. But the question is like, what value does Edric Storm have now? Because Courtney Penrose is dead. And some loyal men went off with him. One of those loyal men is the son of somebody at Storm's End. But Estermont, Lomas Estermont's like son, is taking care of Edric Storm. So one could argue that like something related to Lomas Estermont, and like you could like if Lomas Estermont cared about his father, about his son, and his son's wishes to like take care of this like kid and everything, like maybe you could get Storm's End through Lomas Estermont. But you know, I don't know if like the rest of the castle really cares that much, and so Lomas Estermont would be kind of alone. You know, you'd have to have him like third in command and have like Gilbert Faring and then Elwood Meadows like die off, and then have Lomas Estermont like come in and then somehow have Lomas Estermont care about his son taking care of Edric Storm, and then somehow have Edric Storm like be an important bargaining chip. It's down the list of things I think that are likely. Additionally, like Edric Storm, he'd be seen as a threat to like young Griff's claim, wouldn't he? Like he's, you know, the only surviving. Well, I mean, I suppose there's Tommen. Well, they're not supposed to be Roberts, so he's like he'd be like the eldest known bastard like of Robert. One could argue that he's like would be put on the throne. If like Stannis died and Shireen died and things like that. So, I mean, one could argue that like he would have a claim. And so I don't think young Griff would want to support him. This is actually what people bring this up in Game of Thrones, how Gendry comes back and Daenerys legitimizes him and gives him Storm's End. And you're like, dude, you just legitimized somebody that like has a claim to the throne over you. Like, why would you do that? So I think you'd have to be very careful with somebody like your Edric Storm. I mean, I do think he's going to come back into the story. But I don't know if I don't know how much support he would bring people. You know, like the Stormlands are already Aegon's, you know, Connington has conquered the Stormlands. He just needs to take Storm's End, and everything else like is pretty much in line. So I don't know what Edric Storm would add. That's all. He seems more of a weakness than anything else. Preston looks fitter than usual. I don't know why. Maybe I'm well rested tonight. I went to bed somewhat early. Tom Hardy should have been Daemon. You know, that would have worked. Tom Hardy is surprisingly versatile. Just because, like, I mean, I was just thinking of like his role in Nemesis and how different he is. Because we kind of associate him now that he's big as being like big Tom Hardy, but he's not always that way, you know. You disliked John 2, but it gave us a 5-book long payoff with the death of Janis Slint. Is that enough, or is the Sam moment just too much? I mean, you're right that the Janis Slint execution is a very important moment in the story that could have been added. That could have been cut out and added to something else. I don't know if it saves the chapter. I admit that's a big event. It's a huge event that makes John 2, and what Ether is talking about is somebody mentioned like I was talking about my least favorite A Dance with Dragons chapters, and I think I put John 2 really high because it's mostly just a repeat of Sam 1 A Feast for Crows. And Sam 1 A Feast for Crows wasn't that interesting, and there was nothing new added to the chapter, really, from John's perspective. There were some things about like John's motivation for like sending them off, like is revealed, but it's like we don't really care about the babies that much. We don't really care about like John being mean to Gilly and splitting up the babies. Like it's not something like anyone's really dwelling on. And so I thought it was just like a waste of a chapter. Like so much time is spent like looking at the perspective from John's perspective, and it just doesn't add much. But you know, he's right that there's also the death of Janis Slint in that episode, in that chapter. Does it save the whole chapter? I don't know. Maybe I have to rethink it. On my worst chapters of A Dance with Dragons list. We should do that sometime, Carmine.
You have a worst? How dare you? How dare you?
They're like half of them are Tyrion chapters. He just does so little. He does so little, and that's... Oh, God. I'm trying to think of, like... Would they all be Daenerys, Jon, and Tyrion chapters? If I had to pick, like, the 10 worst chapters of A Dance with Dragons. Trying to think if anybody else would have like maybe I might pick I know some people love the Davos chapter. I might pick the first Davos chapter or one of the Davos chapters too, because I think that it's just like having Davos go back into a cell and like how many times are you going to throw Davos in jail, like, you know, and have him like think about being in jail, like have Davos do something, you know. I think there's...
Did you ever see the Davos chapter written by an AI? It's basically like the AI supposedly read all of Davos chapters that we've ever gotten and compiles like a new Davos chapter. It's the funniest shit ever. I'll try to find it for you.
Really?
But it essentially boils down to Davos. Yeah, it essentially boils down to Davos thinking about the missing fingers he doesn't have anymore, but how Stannis is fair and just, and like it's the same. It's fucking. I'll find it for you. If anybody,
I can't believe an AI did that.
Comment section. I believe it was an AI. It was either an AI or someone being very funny, but I'll try to find it. Someone in my server posted it.
That's real. That's really incredible. One, I'm just in awe that an AI could construct something like that.
Oh, Did you see the AI thing I sent you? You saw
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
right? Ned
yeah.
Stark versus.
Mm-hmm.
You wanna post it up? I'll
Sure.
resend it to you again. Hold on one second. Before you do that, here, just put this. So, for those of you who don't know, I must apologize to my friend Anna. She's a phenomenal artist, and I know AI art is controversial right now, but someone sent me to this Discord server where you can actually put in a request for any art you can think of that's not sexual, and they will do it within like 30 seconds. So, as a test run, I was like, okay, give me Ned Stark fighting Darth Vader.
And in
And they did
30,
it.
30
They
seconds, this
fucking
came back.
within 30 seconds. It's a mix of like photoshopping together shit and like yeah,
Yeah.
like within like 30 seconds. You could do it too. Um there it is. I asked him Ed Stark from Game of Thrones fighting Darth Vader. Yeah, this is all art. I don't know if it made it. It sounds like they took a scene from episode 5 of season 1 of Game of Thrones and
Yeah, I mean, what seems to
spliced it.
happen is they like take a scene that exists and then they try to like add in like faces. Right, because this seems like this is Ned and Jamie fighting,
Yeah.
and then these like seem to be like some clip art of like Anakin and Vader fighting or something. But you said this came back in 30 seconds. They were able to produce this for you.
30 seconds. I also did one. It didn't come out as great. I also did one of Ned Stark and Daenerys like sitting down having a cup of tea. That one was a little eh. Do you want me to give you
Yeah,
that
yeah, I'd
one
love to
or
see that.
let me see if I can find it. I tried doing. I'm sorry. I should apologize to you. I tried doing Ned. I tried doing George R. R. Martin and Preston Jacobs sitting down for like a cup of tea and enjoying the sunshine. That one did not work out as well.
Well, I don't. Yeah, there's probably
It
just
just
not many.
gave
Yeah.
you know what it gave? It just gave me back George R. R. Martin and like George R. R. Martin again, like just two George R. R. Martin clones together.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
this is Ned and Danny.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Put this one up. Um, Here I did. I did this wrong. I need to open this up first and then drag it.
Which I find it interesting. It would assume that Ned lived out long enough to be an older man having a good time with Danny.
Huh. Yeah. So odd, right? It's yeah. It's like
Preston, let me restart my shit so hopefully I don't echo. But if you
okay.
have like a request, send it to me on Facebook and I'll like put it in like anything you can think of, anything,
Okay.
any style, realistic or whatever the fuck. Yes, he does look like Qui
I
Gon
mean,
Jinn.
if I
And
were going to if I were going to give you something though that I'd want to see, I would want to see um have me do like Ariel Hota treating with Darkstar
okay,
would be like
okay,
I would
treating
want to see that Ariel Hota treating with Darkstar.
Darkstar Gerald Dane. You
Yeah.
mean? I always never know if I'm spelling Aereo correctly. Let me just check real
Right.
quick. Yes, I am.
It's going to
Okay.
be a tougher
Uh,
one. Yeah. I also don't think
let
they're
me
going to
see if
do
it
it.
does that.
They're probably going to do it wrong because like you know how every picture of Ariel Hota has him with a beard and Ariel Hota has no beard.
Right.
They probably have that wrong, but like that'd be
Let
an
me
interesting one to
see.
see.
But the stuff they come out with, dude, it is insane. Like non Game
Yeah.
of Thrones stuff. I'll have to show you sometime. I'll invite you to the server if you want to play with it yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah. So wait, did it cost you money each time you
imagine.
do it, or is it
Nope, for
free?
free. If you want like more done like in a specific time frame, like you'll have to pay money. But for the most part, all right. Arahota treating with Darkstar Gerald Dane. Is that fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I should probably remove Darkstar because the AI will think we'll put an actual star there. So I'll put
Yeah,
Gerald
yeah. Put
Dane.
Gerald Dane or something.
Let me see what comes back. All right, count it down. Let me see what comes back. But let me show you one thing other real quick. This right here is also AI. I'm so sorry to the people waiting for Preston to answer your questions, but I have to show you. This is AI right here, and the ask was beautiful vegan food truck surrounded by fantastical flowers in the beautiful sky, fantasy AK with African American chef.
You know, pretty good.
Yeah, this is what they came back with, and this is not. I'm sorry. This I knew they would do this. When it comes to certain characters that are not in the cultural zeitgeist, it becomes a little too. That is
I
not
mean,
what you
considering that
wanted at all.
this comes back in like 30 seconds, right?
Yes, yes, but no, that right there is not what you wanted at all. I just sent it to you.
Oh. This is okay. That's ridiculous, by the way. Wow. Wow. This is hilarious.
Literally.
So you're saying that the AI needs some work. This is Ario Hota treating with Dark Star. Like, how on earth? It's like. Like what? This is like Ethiopian mystics like talking to each other. Like, what is this? Like,
that's literally what I put in there. Ario Hota treating with Gerald Dane. That's I can even screen cap it in case you guys think I'm fucking with you.
that's so funny.
That's literally what they gave me. That's literally it.
I mean, he looks. They look like it looks like an Ethiopian priest. You know, or
it's probably because like Ario Hota, there's not a lot of like references to go off of, and they go by references. So that's what they gave me.
That's so funny.
I tried putting your name in there, so.
It's probably not very good.
Finn Jansen, add minus V4. Oh, I'll actually try that. Okay. Why? What is that going to do, Jansen? You gonna fuck me up here?
This is so funny.
Let me try one more time. Actually.
I mean, they're good. It's good art. It's incredible art. It's just like, that's really weird.
Anton, you fucking killing me here? What are you doing? All right, I'll give it a shot.
Let's catch up on some super chats while I wait. Why would Rhaena Targaryen marry a Hightower? That is a good question. So after the war is over, essentially hold on a second. Bringing up trying to find the years and everything that all this is going to happen. Okay, so I mean, essentially after the war and the Velaryons get killed, Jace and Luke get killed. Rhaena and Baela are made single again, and so the war is kind of over, and Rhaena does eventually marry a Hightower and have like a bunch of Hightower children, and I think that the essentially the question is like, why on earth would she do this? Considering that the Hightowers were the enemies in war. I suppose the idea is that, like, without thinking about it too much, like, that's how you make peace with enemies. That's the whole point. That's why it's called making peace. It would be the main thing. But, like, let's see what it says here. Lionel accepted it was a peace agreement. I think it was part of Corlys Velarion's peace agreement. Married Tarly. In 131, Lord Lionel accepted Lord Corlys Velarion's peace terms to end the conflict, despite initially resisting. This is because Tyrells forbade him to raise a host and go to war to leave, implicit that Garmund would pay for Lionel's disobedience with his life, as every word is a hostage. Garmund would later marry Rhaena Targaryen. So it sounds like that Garmund was a hostage and was married off to Rhaena in order, as they were as part of this like peace agreement, to keep the high towers in line or something would be the idea. It'd be interesting though, but it brings up a good question. Like, where were those 6 daughters raised? Were they raised around dragons? Were they raised with the Velaryons? Or were they raised in Old Town? But this is all stuff that we don't know about. Maybe it would come up in Fire and Blood Part 2. But I think it's mainly, some sort of peace agreement and hostage situation. Warding is the reason. Do you think the ghost stories at Harrenhal and other castles can be attributed to souls trapped in the weirwood used in their construction? Yes, that's exactly what I think. But yeah, so Harrenhal, Harrenhal, like where a whole bunch of weirwoods were chopped down to construct Harrenhal, and weirwoods are in the construction of the castle, and so there's this like feeling that Harrenhal is haunted. There's this like howling that everyone sort of talks about, and whether it be metaphorical or literal, this idea that there really are like souls inside the weirwoods in Harrenhal's construction. But I know I absolutely think it's at least like an idea metaphorically. Will it ever come into the story? I don't know, but like I think that was definitely like part of the whole situation. Like in the same way, like Sweet Robin's throne and stuff like that. I definitely think that. Yeah. Rereading A Feast for Crows in hospital a year ago when I was 19 and identified Sweet Robin because my brain tumor gave me epilepsy. I used to find him annoying. Oh, well, I'm glad you're out of the hospital. I know epilepsy. A good friend of mine, he actually was a Peace Corps volunteer in Burkina Faso, and he fell while drunk and hit his head, and after that he started getting seizures, and it's certainly no fun, certainly no fun at all, but changed his life quite a bit. But yeah, it's it's funny when things are used almost for, I don't know, like I don't know if like in some ways, like Sweet Robin's like seizures are used as like somewhat dark comic. There's some dark comedy to them, but or to make him just seem like pathetic and weak. But they really shouldn't be that. Like we should be really asking like, this is a condition that real people have. Like, and how do people overcome that kind of thing? And in a sense, like Sweet Robin is a stronger character. Or, considering that he has all of these afflictions that he has to overcome and survive in this world dealing with. So, it's one of the, I don't even know if like this was George's like intention, but like, I definitely like a feel for Sweet Robin. I think I like Sweet Robin just because he's a real kid, but he's in such a harsh world that like hates every fiber of his being. And the fact that he's still like kicking it and surviving is like something I really like. And in the end, like I suppose he's gonna be a stronger character for it. If he learns how to manage everything. What do you think? What do you think about human society actually becoming a collective consciousness? Is this potential loss of individuality too costly? This is this is a fundamental question that George R. R. Martin kind of asks in his writing. Like human beings have a desire to be connected with each other. And we can see with like internet and being constantly connected with social media and stuff like this, like that we get addicted to it. We love being connected. And A Song for Leah is definitely about that. And like the idea of heaven is about that we fear being alone. Shouldn't we like crave like being in a collective state? And you know, because some people think heaven's a nice idea. Song for Leah is about this, you know, the Grishka being a stand-in for heaven, but also like the Grishka being like the human, like fulfilling the human desire of being connected. But if you are connected, don't you lose your individuality? And, you know, and so George's definitely like asking that question. And in the end, like the character in A Song for Leah, which is essentially him, like he's like, well, I'm going to be alone, but I'm going to be like an individual, and I'm going to fight on my own and things like this. And that's all kind of there. So will human society head that way? You know, maybe 1,000 years, you know, like it's hard to say, like what, like I think about this a lot. Like, you know, those days where you start like worrying about death and like the universe and how the universe is expanding faster than the speed of light. But at the same time, like this belief that we have about death and the universe and all these things is, you know, 30 years old. Like, you know, we only discovered quantum mechanics like 100 years ago, relativity 100 years ago. Who's to say what human society is going to be like in 100 years, let alone 1,000, let alone 10,000, let alone 100,000 years? Like it's so mind-bogglingly like outside of what we can comprehend that it's hard to even think about, you know, like, so in the future, will human society be collective consciousness? I mean, will they even be human at this point? Like, will society be collective consciousness? Will whatever comes after humans be collective consciousness? Maybe, you know, but it's like so abstract and like removed from where we are now that it's at some point you're like, oh, is it worth it? Like, you know, at what point will humans start genetically engineering themselves to be like spacefaring Grishka, or spacefaring like Volcran and Grishka and floating around the cosmos? You know, what, like, how far, like, because we're not going to be humans forever. Like, you know, that's just through evolution. We're not going to be humans forever. But they're, you know, through just mutation and variance. So I don't know. We'll see if it's that. Maybe, but can there be collective consciousness? Yeah. I mean, if two consciousnesses are brought together, wouldn't they blend? Can there even be collective consciousness? I don't know. Every Davos chapter.
I don't know if this is AI or someone just wrote this, but supposedly, you want to read this out loud?
Yeah, sure. Every Davos chapter. I mean, obviously this doesn't sound like Davos. I can't let Stannis down, Davos thought to himself after fucking everything up yet again due to his abject lack of charisma or likability. He found himself reaching for his pouch of finger bones, only to remember that he lost them when he fucked up during the Battle of the Blackwater. That reminded him of his many dead sons, which made him very sad, though he did not forget his duty. He never forgot his duty to Stannis, who had spared his life. I must never forget that Stannis spared my life, Davos thought, clenching what remained of his fingers in his left hand. Stannis had removed the first joints of his fingers in his left hand as punishment for his crimes as a smuggler. Stannis was hard on him, was a hard man, but just. He reached for his pouch of finger bones, only to remember that he lost them. He missed the bones that he kept in a pouch around his neck. They were his luck, and now he had no luck. Even without my luck, I must not let Stannis down. He could not have taken more than the first joints of my left hand, yet he gave me a lordship, Davos thought. Even though he earned a lordship, four of his sons would never know about it, as he died on the Blackwater, where Davos lost his pouch of finger bones, which he considered his luck. Davos took a moment to remember his dead sons. I miss my dead sons. Perhaps they would have fared better if I had my luck. Though I lost my luck at the Blackwater, even then, I must not let Stannis down. Instinctively, Davos reached for his pouch of finger bones, which he considered his luck. I don't think an AI did.
That's every Davos chapter.
Yes, I don't think it. I don't think an AI wrote that, but I think that's funny. Funny nonetheless. Very true.
Do you want to see? By the way, one of your guys here, shout out to Mr. Finn Jones. He's helping me construct a good Davos treating with Darkstar. This is what I got. Don't show that one because that one clearly looks like it took it from something. So then, what I did was I mixed it up a bit. I put Davos confronting Gerald Dane from a Song of Ice and Fire book series, and it came back with whatever the fuck this is. What the fuck is that? What the fuck did you give me, Finn?
Wait, why didn't you want me to show this one?
I don't know. I feel like it's fucking like look at the bottom. That's clearly the AI is clearly like stealing from somebody, whoever the fuck that person is. And this is not
because there's definitely some like letters on the bottom, right?
Yeah. So the AI is clearly taking something from somebody, and this is not because you put the word you told me to put treating, and treating
is not really used.
Treat
right.
someone who's ill.
Yeah.
Right. And the other one is I put a Song of Ice and Fire, and that made it World of Warcraft somehow. I don't. Whatever.
It's funny.
You want to put that second one too, or?
Sure, I'm putting this one up. Huh. So he's like with like a dark elf. Dark out. Hota. Dark elf. Huh. Well. Yeah, I think definitely the AI needs a good, huge...
Here. Finn, what did you write? This is the closest we're going to get. This is literally it. Finn, what did you write? Message me on Discord.
Oh, okay. This is like, yeah. It's actually like not so bad, considering. You know, they gave him the purple, his house colors, a beardless dude. It's not bad. Hota's so young. We know he has like white hair, but yeah. I think what the best you can do is like find a famous figure that is like that looks similar to the one you're trying to like portray and put them in, you know. Would probably be the way to go.
So what Finn told me he put in the AI, he said a tall man wearing armor, copper scales and cloak of dun and yellows, sand silk, copper helmet, half helm, wrapped in an orange silk, talking to handsome man with a clean shaven face. With okay, so high cheekbones, dark purple eyes, and strong jaw. Okay, so you have to like describe everything. And yeah, I actually wonder if we take George's like descriptions of some of the characters into the bot, if it will actually give. I wonder.
Who knows? Preston, how's your book coming along? It's finished. I just going through it with the editor, and then after that, I've got to work on things like having it formatted into. I've been looking into like publishing stuff, and it's like it's a real pain in the butt. But nonetheless, my book is for the most part finished. It's just there's a lot of other messy things after that about like you've got to find like. In order to publish something, you have to have things in like an EPUB fashion like format, and so you've got to like find there's people that you find online that do that for you, and then you upload it into various things and into Amazon and stuff like that, or Kindle, and so I've been doing a lot of research on like how to do all of that. But yeah, it's near the finish line. It's just that, but that's still like a long way off until like you're gonna see a physical book. Hopefully, maybe by the time like season 2 of House of the Dragon comes out or something, I'll have it then, and can
very nice.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, would you be sending some review copies out to your homies?
Sure.
I don't know. I'm
Sure.
thinking of a
Yeah.
guy in specific. Me,
Yeah. Yeah.
sign
Yeah. Of course.
copy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you stand behind your theory that all the Starks have a unique psychic ability? I remember you mentioning Sansa's in-person beauty. So my idea is that psychic abilities in all of the characters, whether it be Targaryens or Starks or whoever, are the same psychic ability. It's just that like how you develop them is varies, and so like each Stark is pursuing a kind of different aspect of the general innate psychic ability that they had. Like it's sort of like you're born athletic, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be a basketball player. Say you're born with a body that's really good at being athletic. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a basketball player or a soccer player. You have to then like practice to become one of those things, right? And so I think like Arya is practicing being like using her psychic abilities to like perhaps manipulate her face or like change people's perspective of her, like some sort of telepathic sense, like seeing her glamour differently. Jon is getting connected to his direwolf. Bran is focusing more on like time travel and the werewood and things like this. And then Sansa might be focusing on something like suggestion, like being able to like manipulate people, like in a sort of an empathic way was kind of the idea. And so, yeah, I do kind of stand by it. I mean, I think that fundamentally I do believe that George thinks that like psychic ability is psychic ability. It's just how you develop it. And then, whether it be you're going to focus on dragon riding versus like focusing on manipulating your face. But, because the Starks the story does have the Starks doing rather different things, and they're clearly all like genetically similar, so, I stand by that. I don't necessarily think like Rickon or the non-POVs like matter too much. I don't think necessarily like Rickon needs to have something significantly different from Jon, but I think like the POVs are, developed in a certain way. Hey Preston, I live in China. My VPN's been down for a month. Have I missed any big Preston lore? Oh, I don't know. But welcome back. I hope China's been. I hear China's a little easier now to get around now that they've
By the
completely
way,
given
I
up
have
on.
to ask you.
Yeah.
I have to ask you a question in regards to China. It's this guy went on Rogan and he's like, China has 10 years before they're fucked. I don't know how true he sounds like one of those guys where like what he's saying, there's some validity to it, but at the same time, I don't know if I trust this motherfucker. So I would ask you, he was saying stuff along the lines of like Chinese workers have like less value when it comes to like a Mexican worker because Mexicans are more skilled in certain regards than Chinese workers are, amongst other things. I'll have to ask you to watch this thing. He goes into it.
So it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't matter. So
I'm doing it no justice.
No. I know. But like, man, there's so many things to talk about on this. Okay, first of all, like, there for forever, for my entire life, there's been people that have been claiming China's going to collapse, and there's people that are claiming like China's going to be like super futuristic and like surpass America. And these people have been like claiming this for 40 years, like one or the other. Like, God forbid that we have like some middle ground of like, but is China going to collapse? No, it's not going to collapse. And one of the things that prevents China from collapsing is the fact that they have that so much of their economy is government spending. So it can't collapse in the same regard as a capitalistic economy. Like a capitalistic economy can grow better, but can also collapse better because like the money just like flows out when it flows out. But then we have rescue packages from our government. We have bailouts, you know, like with 2009 financial crisis and stuff like that. So like, they're not. It's not going to like all of a sudden collapse. Like it might go down slowly over the course of like many years. It may go up over the course of many.
That's what he said.
Years.
In 10 years.
I mean, the thing is at the end of the day, they have lots of workers. They have lots of educated people. They have they're a very large, diverse population. You've got very educated urbanites. You have very uneducated rural people. You have everything in between. So, you know, there's lots to offer. Now the other thing is like by focusing on like one thing and being like, well, a place like Mexico or Vietnam or something like can beat them in this respect. That doesn't really matter. In economics, we have something called comparative advantage, which just means you're going to like focus on something like a niche will like find you. The market will push you into a niche. Like it doesn't matter if one country or one group is like better than you at something. So like say the like one common like I can bring up like let me think about it like take Germany and Portugal, okay, like and red wine and cars. Like if you actually like had the Germans like put all of their effort into making like red wine, they might be able to do red wine better than the Portuguese. And they can make cars better than the Portuguese. Say the Portuguese are worse at both. It doesn't matter because it's more profitable for the Germans to focus on cars than it is for wine. So the Portuguese would produce wine and the Germans would produce cars. Like you'd still find, like even if one party is better at all things than the other party, it doesn't mean that all things are done by the better party. Just like, you know, like you might be better at cleaning your house than your maid, but you're still going to let your maid do it because you have a fucking job to go to. Like, you know, like so this is what we call with comparative advantage. So like no matter what, there's always going to be something for the Chinese to do. Even if you could argue that the Chinese aren't as good as, say, the Mexicans. It doesn't matter. The Mexicans would focus on A, leaving the Chinese to do B. Because the Mexicans are going to have, like, industries that they are best at. And so it's really just, like, fundamentally not understanding, like, how the world works by saying like well one country is better at it and therefore like this other country is just going to like fall. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Like the skill of laborers, how the Chinese work by memory, and it's a whole thing. I'll send you a link of it if you want.
I mean, like you can look at it another way. Like society is filled with all sorts of different types of people. You know, some people are way better at doing stuff than other people, and yet employment is 95% of people are employed, you know, and the 5% of people that are unemployed, like some are searching for work. Like there's very few people in the society that have nothing to do, like that are not pulling in income and money. Like, you know, like nearly everyone in society like is able to work and find a job. And so like you take that to the whole like globe, like there's plenty of work. Like people are going to find things for the Chinese to do. Like it doesn't matter. Like if you like say that one country is better than another, it doesn't matter. They'd find something to do. That's how comparative advantage works. But so it's silly. Like Joe Rogan just has on all these weird conspiracy theorists like constantly that like they want to make their mark by saying something different and interesting, but it's like it's just not true. Like if you know, like imagine like trying to go on Joe Rogan and telling the truth and being like, well, you know, economists think that there's some strong aspects to China's economy and some weak aspects to Chinese economy, and the future is really uncertain, but there's a chance that China's economy could do really well in the future, and there's a chance that it might not do that well in the future. Like, imagine if somebody went on a show and said that. The truth. Like, that's just not interesting. Like, oh, really? Like, that's a lot of maybes and, like, a lot of qualifiers. Like, no. Like, the thing that's, like, gets people is when it's like, no, China's going to collapse. Like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, this is the problem. Matt summed it up perfectly. He goes, I saw that clip too. Guys seem both believable and dodgy at the same time. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. He seems so dodgy. Like, so I don't know.
Yeah. Will there be a new Lord of the Reach? Why else would Bronn become the Lord of Highgarden? Why would D&D kill a house if it wasn't supposed to survive? So at the end of Game of Thrones, Bronn is for some reason made it Lord of Highgarden. And which is ridiculous, like ridiculous. Like, I think they made him Lord to Highgarden because, I don't know, make like people had forgotten about Stokeworth, and it just wasn't, like Bronn being Lord of Stokeworth, that's believable. Being Lord of Highgarden when there's 55 Tyrell characters that can all inherit it before him, no, it's just not going to happen. Like, it's just not going to happen. But yeah, there'll probably be a new Lord in the Reach. Like, Mace is probably going to die, and there's a whole bunch of different Tyrell factions. And I bet some of the Tyrell factions are going to support young Griff, and I mean, some Tyrell factions might support Daenerys, and you're going to have a fight among the Tyrells. I imagine there's going to be a Tyrell civil war. I can't think of why else, like, George created such an extensive and useless Tyrell family tree if he did not want the different factions to come in later and fight each other. Like, what would be the point? He doesn't. There's only 3 houses that George has created, like, a ridiculously large convoluted family tree for, and that have different factions, and that's the Freys, the Lannisters, and the Tyrells, and all of them seem to have infighting. So, like, or at least the Lannisters and the Freys do. So I think the same would happen with the Tyrells. So after the show's reception, do you think Shireen will still be burned, or could she have a larger role in the future? I think that was George's plan. I think it was legitimately George's plan. Could George have changed his mind? Maybe. It's very difficult to get Stannis back up to the wall for him to burn Shireen, but like somebody else could obviously burn Shireen, which is too bad. I think Shireen is interesting. There's a lot of reasons why people would want to burn Shireen, whether it be like because she has grayscale, or whether it to be like for a sacrifice to or things like that. So I think that was George's plan. But will George change it? I think George is going to change things based on just like how the flow of his writing goes, rather than like what the show seems to do. I don't necessarily, I mean, at least maybe on a subconscious level or something, but I don't know if there's necessarily too much backlash against like the Shireen burning thing. If you were going to change it, it's just that, well, I gave away that secret in the show. Maybe I don't want to give away that secret, but I don't know. I haven't even decided what we're going to do with Shireen for the fanfic, so we'll see. I kind of think that like Justin Massey like running off with Shireen is a more interesting story, though I don't know how Justin Massey's going to get out of there. But I'm a little biased just because Justin Massey, I love Justin Massey as a character so much that I want that poor senile Davos as his memory fades away. Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think that, I don't necessarily think that the Davos chapters are the strongest in Ice and Fire, but I like them a lot. It's just but yeah, they can be a little redundant. Were you big on the Stargate franchise? Where does it stand next to other sci-fi universes, Star Trek, Thousand Worlds, etc.? I have only seen a few episodes of Stargate. I saw the movie a few times, and I really liked the movie. But I don't know too much about the Stargate franchise too much. I understand that like some people are super into Stargate and some people are super into shit. What was the one from Community that Abed liked? Fucking god damn it, Farscape. Yeah, some people are super into that. I think it was something to do with the Sci-Fi Channel. Like the Sci-Fi brand kind of ruined stuff for me in my mind. Like I always assumed that if it was on Sci-Fi Channel, that it was going to be like cheap and tacky. And then Battlestar came out, and you're like, oh crap! Like Sci-Fi Channel can actually do some good stuff until it ended poorly. But it probably like wasn't. I probably never gave it the chance that a lot of people like that I should have.
I hate to interrupt you here, but
Sure.
I have to show you this one. Once again, shout out to Mr. Finn, who works with AI. He has been crafting some stuff, and he did a AI of you with a
Uh-oh.
direwolf. Before I show you this, you have to put this on your Facebook. Like you have to show your wife, put on your face something. Here, let me put some space in there. What did you?
Oh my lord. Okay.
This is the photo you used? Okay. That's. I didn't know you could use photos. Okay, that makes it much more interesting. I'm gonna have you teach me if you can, homie. Let me give it to you, Preston. Give me a second.
Okay.
You're gonna love. You're gonna love this. Come on, come on.
Whoa.
What is that?
I mean, besides being
Come
balding, I don't know if it really looks like me.
What?
I mean, that's like the only aspect of it that like resembles me is the fact that like I'm balding. Like that's the only aspect.
Stop it.
This is it. I don't know if that really looks like me.
Guys, put up a fucking poll. How good is that? It doesn't look like you? You're out of your mind. This is the picture, by the way, he used of you to get those results.
Oh, really?
This is what he used the screen cap of you. And it did that.
What? That's such a bad screen cap of me. That's a horrible... First of all, he used this screen cap, which is like, what?
Yo, dude, you sure? You sure, man? Like,
the only thing it took from me was my balding aspect. So I mean, just like looking at my face, like okay, like it's like knowing my own face. Like this doesn't look like me in the sense that like one, my nostrils are bigger. I don't have a bump in my nose. I don't.
Oh my god!
My eyebrows are bushier. My eyes are actually. This is close to my eyes, but my eyes are because my eyes are kind of small and deep set. But like I have more lines in my. I don't have dimples. This guy's getting dimples. I don't have dimples. Like,
is your wife available? Get her in here right now. Send it to her right now. Have her look at it. What is she gonna say?
Fine.
Send it to your mom too.
Hold on. I'm gonna.
It's totally him. I'm telling you guys.
Oh, Cindy. Oh. She went to the market. She's not even here. I mean, I could send it to her on my phone. Here, maybe she'll if she answers. Well, nah, it's too much of a pain. Too much of the pain. Have you heard of Pentiment? Awesome medieval art style focusing on writing double monastery mystery between monks and nuns that you mentioned in last stream. Interesting. Oh. This is the video game Pentiment. That is a really fascinating art style that they've done. I'm gonna bring this up, but like, like this is like a video game where they use like the medieval art style like in the game, which is pretty cool. If I'm looking at the right thing.
Who's the developer of this game?
Xbox. It's on Xbox. It says
going to be
Pentiment
on
might be
Xbox, yep.
2022's best game.
Oh, yo, that's Obsidian. Yo, you know it's a banger. Obsidian
Okay.
is phenomenal. Holy shit, that's good. Oh wow.
Yeah. That's pretty neat.
How many
The
downloads?
plot of Pentiment takes place in distinct acts, each focusing on a different incident, connecting the town's enduring mystery. In Act 1, 1518, Andreas Mahler is serving as an apprenticeship as an illuminator at an abbey outside of the small Bavarian town of Tassing. Wow, they're really going, okay. Really going, really specific, and that's pretty cool. See, this makes me want to play video games again, and I'm like, oh no. Like, oh no.
There's one game I would recommend to you that like it would take you 2 hours, 3 hours to complete. It's actually pretty cool. It's called Yes, Your Grace. Super cool, fun game where you like your choices impact the kingdom. You play as a king, and you're trying to get your wife pregnant and all that stuff. Very Game of Thrones-ish vibes. It's called Yes, Your Grace.
Okay. Um. Where am I? German wine isn't that good. It's true. Their white wine is better. German white wine is pretty good. German red wine is not very good. This has to do with like, okay, if you want to be like, so for everybody out there, it's good to be able to like, first of all, wine snobbery is complete bullshit. It's absolute bullshit, and you have to understand that it's bullshit. Like these people that talk about wine or wine consultants and all that's a whole bunch of shit. Like that's total bull. Okay, that's a scam. They're all grifters. Like all grifters. Like fancy wine is a grift. Okay, now that said, like if you just want to know like real basics about wine, so. Generally speaking, the sunnier the area, the redder the wine, while the less sunny the area, the white wine comes out. So like Germany rains all the fucking time. They can't really produce very good red wine. So they produce good white wine. Okay? Portugal, Spain, like sun, Italy, sun everywhere. And so they're able to produce really good wine, good red wine. California, a bit unique in its weather, and so you get kind of all types in California. And then, if you've watched Sideways, there are these like pockets that produce Pinot Noir. Like Pinot Noir is like the exception to the rule. Like Pinot Noir grows in these like odd little pockets. So like you do find some weird not so sunny places that produce Pinot, but like. If you learn these like super basic stuff, you can just like fake it, just fucking fake it, and just like choose your wine, choose the wine that you like, and then come up with a good reason, and then you can bullshit your way out of any conversation, and then sound like you're super classy, but like. Just in that sense, like, just knowing the fact that, like, just that simple fact that, like, red wine grows in sunny places, white wine goes in, like, less sunny places, like, just knowing that. And then, like, if somebody throws at you a country where wine comes from, and you pull out that fact, like, one, you can kind of figure out if they have good wine or not based on, like, the weather. So if somebody's like, "Oh, I got this red wine and it's from Finland," be like, like you can figure out based on the weather, like no, it's not going to be any good, But but like, or like the region, you could be like, "Oh, it's from like, the north of France and it's red wine." You'd be like you can figure out no, like you should be getting your red wine from the south of France, So like once you kind of know these kind of basic things, you can fucking fake everything, right? But but other than that, like honestly, wine is good when you like the taste and it's drinkable, and that's it. So to know about this bullshit, so when the movie Sideways came out, the character in Sideways hated Merlot, which is hilarious because Merlot is just like a very palatable palatable like dinner wine, but after that movie, sales for Merlot in America plummeted. Like, how can you hate Merlot? It's just like, it's like not liking apples. Like, you're like, oh, what's your favorite fruit? I hate apples. Like, how can you hate apples? Like, they're just like, right. Like that's Merlot, right? And so like, it's just ridiculous. Like how, like that would happen. Oh, this movie said that Merlot was like bad. I guess I shouldn't like it. And so everybody started drinking cabs in America. But like, if you just have a firm belief, like this, drink a bunch of wine, be like, this is the one I like, come up with some like reasons, I just, it's very drinkable. Oh, it's, I don't like stuff that's too sour. I don't like stuff that's too bitter. You just fucking bullshit. Like it's all bullshit. And yeah. What's your opinion of Revenge of the Sith? Is it the second best Star Wars movie ever made? Would it be interesting to hear Carmen's opinion as well? Okay. Of the Star Wars movies?
I think we've done it before. I know you hate Return of the Jedi. I think everybody knows that at this point. Your hatred of Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith is probably the best of the prequels.
Definitely the best of the prequels. Definitely the best of the prequels, yeah.
Yeah. Did I ever show you I don't know if I ever showed you the original fight that they were supposed to do between Palpatine and the Council?
Yeah, you did.
Where they were, so for the audience who doesn't know, they were originally going to have like this one guy come in and be the Emperor fighting all the Council, and the choreography is fucking insane. Then for some reason at the last minute, George Lucas was like, nah, let's have the actor do it. And he's like 50,000 years old. Why would you want that? But he wanted close-up shots of Ian McDiarmid. So
all right, if I had to rank the Star Wars movies in quality, okay. Number 1 is Empire Strikes Back. I think we can all agree on that. Okay. Number 2, I would say Star Wars, A New Hope. After that, it's a big drop off. Okay, so I guess Revenge of the Sith, or does Solo and like Rogue One count as Star Wars movies, or am I just thinking about like the original 9? But
just go with the original 9 for now.
Original 9, Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars. Then we got a big drop, and I would say after that, Revenge of the Sith. After that, this is like really bad. Some really bad stuff. Force Awakens? Do I even like, or maybe I put Last Jedi above Force Awakens, and then Force Awakens, then I'd put Attack of the Clones, then I'd put Return of the Jedi, then I'd put Phantom Menace, and then on the very bottom I would put Rise of Skywalker. Is your list that different from mine?
Not that different. I would just put Episode 4, A New Hope, first as the best.
That's understandable.
It's the best.
I mean, it's understandable. I mean, it's like the one that has the new ideas, right? It's certainly the one that's most enjoyable to watch,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually like Return of the Jedi. It's a fun film. I just really hate the Ewok stuff, but everything else, like
So all of
has a
it.
lot of great moments.
So all of it.
Not all of
Any
it.
scene with
Stop it.
a Muppet or a guy in a bear suit I don't like, and you're like, oh really?
Not
you know my
all that, you know.
you know my favorite aspect of Return of the Jedi is burp jokes, and a Tarzan yell. If we could shove a Tarzan yell into that movie, that'd be great. Um,
Someone ruined the one scene of the film for me. I didn't realize. I think it was Red Letter Media. They pointed out Carrie Fisher's coke nail. Did you ever see
oh
that?
yeah, yeah. Carrie Fisher, she definitely has a coke nail. Yeah.
Ugh, that ruined it.
Oh man. Um, Thank you, Creaky Siki. She's at the bazaar. My wife was at the bazaar. No, she was at the market. Like it's Taiwan, so there's like an outside market with like fruits and vegetables and like all the chaos of Taiwan. That's like down the block. That's where we get our fruits and vegetables. Because like the grocery stores don't really have that much selection here. They have a Costco, but like the Costco is a real pain in the butt to go to, and you've got to buy like everything in massive quantities. But um, da, 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 oh, I was gonna check out 1899. What happened? Oh God. So everybody's been talking about how great 1899 was. I didn't watch it. It's done by the same people that did Dark, the German time travel movie, and they said like ended on this huge cliffhanger that I don't want to spoil because it's a big fucking spoil. So I can't even like talk about that. But like, it's a really cool concept. Like once I read a ship of immigrants coming to America from all over the different parts of the world, and then they come upon another ship that's crew has vanished, and it has to do with the Bermuda Triangle. Like I'm like, oh, that's a really cool concept. Like, oh, you get all these like diverse characters from all over the world, interesting time period, a cool little mystery. It's kind of like a Event Horizon, like ship comes back and the crew is gone. Like that's all really intriguing. Apparently got canceled immediately, because even though it did really well, it just didn't do as well as Wednesday, right? Did you watch any of 1899, Carmine?
I've seen a lot of clips. I get the gist of what happens. I wanted to. Here's my problem with Netflix, and someone told me this. Well, that's a vicious circle many people go through. Why would I waste my time watching anything on Netflix when I have the feeling they're going to cancel it anyway, like they always do? So my strategy has always been, I'll wait to see if it gets picked up for a season 2. But because
Yeah.
I did that and I didn't contribute to watching it, and other people have the same idea, then it doesn't get picked. It's like a weird vicious circle.
I know. I mean, I think everybody kind of works that way. Like why should I watch something if the story doesn't go anywhere? Like why should I get into it if the story doesn't go anywhere? When I can like wait till the whole thing is over and finish it. Yeah. So yeah, no, you're totally right. You're totally right. I mean, like I think I talked about Flash Forward, and like Flash Forward was this like pretty cool series, but it only got one season, and you're like, no, you don't want to watch it now. But it's weird as you ruin all the material that exists because no one wants to go back and watch the reruns. Like it was really weird when so Carmen and I went over the top 5 shows that are on HBO right now, and the number 1 show on HBO is the original Game of Thrones. that like the original Game of Thrones was watched more than House of the Dragon, like in 2022. Okay, number 2 biggest show on Netflix is Friends reruns, and the number 3 show on Netflix is Big Bang Theory reruns, and the number 4 show on I'm not Netflix, HBO. Number 4 show on HBO is Euphoria. So the number 5 show is House of the Dragon. Like, now all of these things they all kind of make sense.
I saw another like scale kind of. I saw another list by Rewind.
Yeah.
I gotta find out what it says here that House of the Dragon is still the number 5 show. I don't know. I don't know how they would. I don't know if this is by network or.
So a lot of times it's hard to. HBO does kind of release their data every once periodically, and so there's some guesswork to it. When you start talking about what's the most popular show on Disney, that's really tough. They go on other stuff like Twitter trendings and stuff because Disney doesn't release the data, but HBO does. So we do kind of have that data. What does your list have? Some other different order?
So the list here, I sent it to you on Facebook. The list here is most watched, I think, in the world, or based off.
Right. Is world versus America.
Right. Is One Piece, which fuck yeah, anime One Piece, and then second is Stranger Things. Third is Grey's Anatomy. Fourth is The Office. Fifth is The House of the Dragon. And sixth is AMC's The Walking Dead, which wrapped up its final season.
So Grey's Anatomy. So I don't know. Like, so what's suspicious about this list is that they're all from different networks. Like, why? Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Like, I don't believe, for example, Peacock has the fucking audience to have The Office be that high. Like, I just don't. Or wherever The Office, or is The Office on Netflix? Where are these things being watched? I did hear that Grey's Anatomy was close. It was second or third most watched on Disney, but that's determined by like trendings and things like this. I think their number 1 is a Australian kids show, like an animated kids show. Which is odd, right? That it's none of these other things, right? But like also like some of these things make sense. Like Grey's Anatomy has fucking 20 seasons. So when people go in to watch stuff, they have a lot more material. So it's like, it's understandable that Game of Thrones is more popular than House of the Dragon because there's 8 seasons of it. Or even that Euphoria is more popular than House of the Dragon because there's 3 seasons of it, So what happened to 1899? I think it was expensive show. Didn't get quite enough views. They also, Netflix now has to shell out a whole bunch of money to get Wednesday for a second season, which they are doing. Because they don't have the rights to Wednesday. Like Amazon has the rights to Wednesday, so they had to buy it from Amazon. But they did. I mean, Wednesday season 2 is going to be on Netflix, so. And so maybe they were like, fucking, got to throw our money behind Wednesday. $18.99. Too bad. Any tips or simple routine that you'd follow to become a bookworm? I plan on reading more stories this year besides essays and short stories. I mean, I'm not a bookworm, so I don't have any very good advice.
Being a bookworm really comes down to how much you enjoy stories. Like, if you're not someone who just enjoys just sitting down and put on a candle, having just the mood right. Hopefully, it's a rainy day. Those are my favorites. It's To
be fair, all the bookworms that I know in my life were speed readers, and like, it kind of frustrated me because I would like read a book. And I'd be like, oh, they're a bookworm. And then I'd be like, want to talk to them. And it was very clear that they just skimmed the book. And I mentioned some aspect of the book. And they're like, yeah, I don't remember that part. Oh, right. Because you weren't reading very carefully, So I think there's a lot to that the people that a lot of people that are bookworms, like, don't actually have the patience to sit down and like absorb a book. They're just like, they read it like entertainment, like watching TV. Like,
that's so true about the patience thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The fiscal policy after Reagan administration, trickle-down economics, having a major effect on wealth inequality in the U.S. So this is the funny aspect of I don't necessarily think there was yes, Reagan came up with this term trickle down economics, which everybody kind of laughed at because like nothing trickles down. Nobody ever believed that things would trickle down. Nothing ever trickles down. But I don't necessarily think there was a policy change. It's just that in the end, like, I mean, other than like, let's cut taxes on the rich, but which became kind of the mantra of the Republican Party. So in economics, there is no mechanism for a society to become more equal in wealth. Like wealth will always, a society over time will always become more and more unequal. That is just what's going to happen. Some people like will somehow like at the very beginning, there might be a situation where you have rich people and a whole bunch of poor people. And then those poor people, like a bunch of them rise into a middle class. And so they kind of go, oh, there's not much wealth inequality because this huge middle class has existed. But it's like, no, the rich will keep getting richer and richer and richer. There's no mechanism in a free market that causes wealth to come back down to people. Trickle down economics is, I mean, it's a joke. No one believes that. I don't even think the people that like push it believe it. Like it just doesn't happen. The only mechanism to redistribute wealth is the government or revolution. So like the government has to like redistribute. And so like the lower the taxes you have on the rich, like the more that's going to happen. I mean, but it would have happened anyway. I guess you're just like, but it's going to happen faster if you don't tax the rich. So we are in this weird world now where we have these like hyper billionaires, right? And it's funny because I'm beginning to get to a point where, you know, there's this question of should there be a maximum wage, and should billionaires should that like be outlawed to have billionaires? And I used to have not such a strong opinion on it because I was like, I don't know how if the optics looks very good. But now with Elon Musk, I really kind of think that like billionaires are a destabilizing force, because when it comes to most industries, and industries that have like a major effect on the U.S. on the economy, you know, you've got lots of different shareholders and lots of different parties, and so in a sense, there's an element of a democratic system to that. Like Amazon is super powerful, but Amazon's not going to do anything like super crazy because they've got these like shareholders who like want to keep business as usual. Like they want stability. But if you have an individual who, now most individuals are going to want stability, but every once in a while you're going to get some crazy fucker, right? You're going to get an Elon Musk who's just fucking crazy. And he's going to do something super destabilizing. And you think about like how destabilizing it was for Elon Musk, who had $200 billion, to buy Twitter, destroy it, and then cause his own companies to fucking tank because he was acting like such an idiot on Twitter. Like the fact that like the performance of one individual and his whims can have a massive effect on the economy and the employment of tens of thousands of people is pretty insane. And so, yeah, now I'm now firmly in the camp that no one should have that much money. Like no one should have that much money. It's deep stabilizing for society for a single individual to have that much power. And that needs to stop. Like that we need to have a maximum wage, a maximum wealth cap or something. Like no human being should have that much power to destabilize stuff based on a whim. I mean, you might have somebody that's like, okay, like it's not like the Rockefellers were bad people, you know, like they kept things fairly stable. But you know, you get one psycho And man, imagine if the Rockefellers were a bunch of psychos, like what they could have done. Like, they were pretty benevolent. Like, oh, let's build some universities and shit. Like, oh, that's pretty nice. But imagine if they were fucking psycho. Imagine if they were like, building schools to promote human sacrifice. Like, there's all sorts of nuts, out there. And Elon Musk is proving himself to be a fucking nut. So, it's now maybe a fool and his money will be soon parted, and the saving grace to it all is the fact that like Tesla has other shareholders, and that maybe $200 billion isn't enough to actually destabilize society. Society reacts back and like punishes, but we'll see. It's just really odd that like some dude's random whim, a random tweet can sink an industry, like, or sink or cause like thousands of people to lose their jobs. Like that should not be the world. No, like there shouldn't be that level of instability at any point. Like 9/11, 3,000 people died because, a bunch of people conspired and like, caused a bunch of chaos. And that was huge. And we did a lot. The government did a lot to try to ensure that never happened again. But when you think about like the whims of billionaires, that's like way more. Like thousands of people lost their jobs. Thousands. Based on some fucking whims. Like, The Royces love Eddard, want to back Robb, hate the Lannisters and hate Littlefinger. Why not just have her tell them who she is and what Littlefinger has done, and that she's innocent? They would believe her. There's mainly because there's a lot more people in the Vale than just the Royces. Also, it's how one perceives honor. The Royces are honor obsessed, right? And yeah, they may hate the Lannisters, but hating the Lannisters is a lot different than like taking in someone who's accused of murder. Like there's a lot of different factors floating around with Sansa's situation, and Littlefinger's situation, like this, and not to mention the murder of Lysa and things like that are all getting stuck, that are all getting wrapped up together. Now, I think like with the fan fiction going forward, we're gonna have to like talk about these complexities and like why Sansa is not revealing herself. But yeah, it's tricky. Like with all of these, like with Sansa being accused of and implicated in several murders, whether she would just be like, I'm Sansa, like, okay. All right. Let's see. I always wish Rome was a longer, great show. It would have, that last, there's only 2 seasons of Rome, but man, the second season, was certainly rushed. It still did okay. It was still all right. Let's see where we are. The world is priceless. No man can ever afford it. Thank you, Preston. Very interesting. Thank you. Putin's whims against Chinese stability. Same argument. Yeah, Putin's whim, like everything that happened with Ukraine. Keep in mind, I lost. I have some investments and in different parts of the world, and I lost a lot of money because I had some investment in Eastern Europe, and man, that like. The only time I've ever had an investment like just completely crash, like 90% gone, poof. I'm just like, whoa. So thanks, Putin. But man, and I like all the sanctions and everything. But man, it's but yeah, I mean the goal is to have a more stable society. We can't be putting putting power in the hands of one person. Would it be better if Twitter were an organization like Wiki? All right, so here's the big problem with Twitter and how people perceive Twitter and everything. Okay, Twitter is a private company. Okay, private companies can do whatever they want. So you can't have when we start talking about, and people talk about this a lot, like freedom of speech and freedom of press. You can't have a private company holding up a pillar of freedoms that have to relate to the government. You know, like it all just doesn't fit. Okay, you can't be like these people that are like, oh, I really love free speech, so I love Elon Musk coming in and taking over Twitter. Like, you want you think a private individual coming in with his money is going to like save the republic and like people's ability to have free speech without the government like coming in and intervening? I mean, I feel this like free speech and press, because also like all the press people went to Twitter. Like I'd say that like the press is like reporters relying on Twitter is probably bigger than anything else. Like anything else, it's like, who gives a shit about like me and Carmine posting about Star Wars on Twitter? Nobody. Okay, we can go to a different platform, but all the media people went to Twitter. Like that's what's really weird and corrupt, is that these are essential public functions for society, and they're in the hands of something private for the profit and betterment of a few individuals. And that's very scary. That's scary about Fox News. It's scary about MSNBC. It's scary about CNN. It's scary about the New York Times. It's scary about Washington Post. I personally believe that these institutions like freedom of speech and press like cannot be trusted in the hands of like private corporations, and that really we need more public funding for something like NPR, like to be the real force for information, in the country. I think people should be getting their news from an organization that's like publicly funded, but at the same time independent from government oversight, which is an influence. Because right now the private interest in these things just is so corrupting. It's so corrupting that like if all the reporters are on Twitter and they have to watch their mouth against Elon Musk or else they're going to get kicked off, and Elon Musk is ruled by like the profits of Tesla cars, like what happens if like there is like reporters start reporting that like Tesla cars are defective? Let's say there's a massive defect in Tesla cars and people are crashing and dying, and reporters are like reporting on that on Twitter. Do you think like Elon Musk would allow that? Like, no. Like there's too much, there's a conflict of interest. And so like, it's just, I think there needs to be, if you're really talking about like an essential function for like, for speech in America, it can't be a private organization. Now, something like Wiki, like, you're right that like through donations, you have like, it is kind of independent. It is kind of much like NPR. I'd rather have it be a nonprofit or something like that. Yeah. Now I don't know if you mean like Wiki in the sense that like many people come in and make decisions. I don't necessarily think that like having a small group of a board of some sort coming up with terms of service is anything evil. I think this idea that like the public needs to come in and figure out like terms of service. No, I don't give a shit about that. But what I worry about is the influence of private companies who just want to make money, controlling the flow of information and controlling the flow of truth. So I think it should be like Wiki in the sense that it's a nonprofit. I don't think we don't necessarily need like a bunch of people like putting in their voice about terms of service. Like, I don't care if like a whole bunch of Nazis like feel like Twitter should allow Nazis. Like Twitter probably shouldn't allow Nazis, you know. So I don't know. I'm no
Twitter probably shouldn't allow Nazis. They 100% should not allow Nazis. What are you, crazy?
I know, but here we are. Here we are. Here we are with Elon Musk saying, "No, you know, maybe I should allow Nazis back on." You know, yeah, that's the best. So yeah, this not so smart man that everybody thinks is a genius, and his whims like fucking controlling the world. Thank goodness he was born in South Africa, or else that dude would be running for president and being a second Trump. Man. You know, Carmine, do you think that the Elon stands have kind of disappeared, or do you still think there's way too many of them?
You know, it's funny. I'm old enough to remember, and I have a good memory enough to remember that after Hillary lost and Trump won in 2016, for like a good 2 weeks, Republicans turned on Elon Musk. I remember this very clearly, that you guys could literally look this up. Republicans were turning on Elon Musk and attacking him. And I remember thinking to myself, well, since Hillary is probably going to be gone from the public eye, as she should be, they need new fodder. Unfortunately, AOC came out around that time, and then she's the new Hillary Clinton for the right to pick on. But for a minute there, it was Elon Musk. I just find it funny that he doesn't remember that. But I don't know, man. Like the Elon stands are weird. They're weird. Yeah, America has a fascination with
though I did see he had a tweet where he said that McCarthy should be speaker, and like the pushback was huge. So, you know, the people that like him are still a bunch of like they still have some sort of like weird crazy beliefs, you know. The people that like him seem to like Matt Gaetz. The Royces strike me as having more honor than sense, like their old friend Ned. I think they would believe her if she said she was innocent because she's a Stark. Maybe she has a lot, but you know, her old, but you know, it's about Sansa's fear and who Sansa trusts. You know, I don't know if Sansa knows all of this information about the Royces and who they are and if they would believe her. I think there's a lot of it, like there's a lot of things that are unsure for her. And so, you know, at the moment she's kind of doing what Littlefinger wants her to do because she sees that as the most safe, but you know, things might change in the future. But yeah. I don't know why anyone would listen to corporate media. I'm sorry that includes NPR currently. I mean, NPR is becoming over time more and more corporate because of financing. But for the most part, as Jackie says, they have been pretty independent, and they do produce some really fucking great content, like the BBC. Yeah, I mean, I imagine we need something that's just a more. I mean, it's the same with like how I think about elections. I think we need to have just complete public funding for elections, and no more private corporate influence in that respect. I think yeah, but is Preston Team Malala or Team Greta Thunberg in their feud? Do they have a feud? There's a Malala Greta Thunberg feud. I mean, I just think it'd be funny if they did.
That was not on my 2023 bingo card. Is that a thing? Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't heard about a feud. I just see when I Google it, I just see pictures of them hanging out together. Yeah, so. This is all very true. I love it when people rage against the mainstream media as if it was a monolith, but real journalism takes prose to do. It is true that real journalism does take prose to do, and there's very few real journalists left in America. I mean, we have the New York Times, we have the Washington Post, we have Associated Press, we have Reuters, and like, and even those, like, people see like the influence coming in, affecting them, and so like we don't have much left in America, like real reporters on the ground seeing the truth out there. This is why we get so little international news anymore in America, because it's just so easy. It's so much easier to write an article on somebody tweeting, because you don't have to leave your desk, than it is to like send a reporter to the middle of Iran, and like report back on what's happening there. It's so it's really getting rough, considering we're in the information age, but like no one wants to leave their house to actually like gain the information. So we're just like navel gazing, like talking to each other about, lies that we've made up.
Speaking of leaving your house and going out there, do you want to address that one thing I told you about that someone was getting on your case about you traveling all over and saying the world is much safer than you think?
Oh, did someone, yeah, no, I get this a lot. Like, I get this a lot that says like, oh, you can travel because you're like a big, tall, like white male. And I will say that with like, I'll admit it, even like with the male aspect maybe, but like being tall and white, in many ways it's like a double-edged sword. Because like I'm not low profile, and so like wherever I go, like everyone's staring at me, and so if somebody wants to like take advantage of me, or like attack me or whatever, like they see me. Like I walk into someplace and they see me. When I was in Afghanistan, there was this big discussion about well, actually when it comes to like embassy security in general, there's this discussion about like high profile versus low profile. So the way U.S. embassies used to exist in the past is they used to be like offices that looked like any other building, and people didn't even know where they were. And then, people just went to work. They were just office buildings. And so eventually though, like the Nairobi, Kenya bombings happened, and they were like, fuck, we need to increase the security for U.S. embassies. And they started making these fortresses that are called, they call them necks, new embassy compounds. And so they've been replaced over the course of like 25 years. The United States has been replacing all of their embassies with these fortresses that are huge. They take up a lot of land. They're huge high walls, barbed wires. They look like, but they give everybody the impression that like America is this militaristic thing, but they also like, now everybody knows where the American embassy is. And like, so or like in Afghanistan, there's like every car in Afghanistan was this like tiny little Toyota hatchback, like every single car. Meanwhile, the embassy was going around in like these armored up vehicle Suburbans, right? And so like, which is safer to get somewhere, being in a like small like Toyota hatchback that everybody else drove, or that no one noticed, or being in this big armored like Suburban where now everybody fucking knows where you're going. So there's the question of like, which is more dangerous, being high profile or low profile? And so I don't necessarily think like me being a tall white guy is advantageous in all situations. Like when I was in like Brazil, like people noticed me, like, and like so often I wish I was not noticed, because Brazil is actually a pretty dangerous country, I mean, take America, take America. Okay. All right. Walking around the bad part of town. Who do you think's safer? like a short, small Mexican guy, a short, small black guy, or a big, tall white guy? Who do you think is safer in the bad part of town in America? Like, that's just, somebody's high profile, somebody's not high profile, So there's bits of that. Now, that said, like most countries, most places in the world, it doesn't matter. Like no one's going to really harm you. So like you're in India, you're fine. There's no crime in India. There's no crime in China. Like, no crime in Southeast Asia. Like, you're fine. Like, no crime in Europe. Like, so no crime in most of Africa. So, the places that are like dangerous, I mean, there's actually no crime in most of the Middle East. Like, the Middle East is incredibly safe when it comes to that. Now, then there's issues of sexual harassment. If you're a woman, like, I could see that sexual harassment being an issue. But like, some of the places I really want to go, like, I feel like I can't. Like, I'd love to go to Lagos, Nigeria, but I'm just like, oh, me walking the streets, like, how is that going to look? Like, So it like makes me nervous, Though I walked the streets of Accra, Ghana, and I felt fine, But walking the streets of Rio de Janeiro at night, like, you can't go everywhere you want, Walking the streets of San Pedro Sula in Honduras, like, you don't want to be a tall white guy. But I will say that some of the people beating me on my country list have been women, like small women, and I'm just like, wow. And they're like, no, I just travel wherever. I've never had a problem. I'm like, oh, crazy, So you really have to like come up with places that are actually like dangerous, like for like a lot of Central America, like a lot of like major cities in Central America and South America, major cities in America, in the United States. A few cities in Africa, war zones, but where else is really dangerous? It's not that many places where I'm just like, oh, that's dangerous. Like you can just like pick a country. Like, I'm just like, yeah, a woman can walk, like any man can walk around the streets and be fine. Nothing's gonna happen to him. And, any woman can walk around the streets, be fine. Nothing's gonna happen to her. Like, that's most nearly all of the world. I have to like pick like crime cities in the Americas and like a few in Africa that I'd be nervous about.
You got robbed that one, or they tried to rob you that one time in Africa.
Yeah, no, it happened. Yeah, in Ethiopia, somebody tried to rob me. Somebody pickpocketed me in Ukraine. Somebody attempted pickpocketed me in Cairo. Somebody grabbed my phone in Cairo. People followed me. Like in Brazil, nothing happened to me because I was so hyper aware. Like, people would follow me, and I'm just like, I see you following me, and then they'd stop. Like, I see what you're fucking doing. Like, I was so scared and hyper aware in Brazil. I'm just like looking around. Like, you were not going to come up on me.
Racist colonizer. How dare you?
Karma is laughing at me there because somebody posted somewhere online that like, I'm a colonizer by like moving to Taiwan, and people are like, he moved to Taiwan because of his wife's job. It's like what do you mean?
Yeah, I feel like that was a troll post. Like,
it was definitely a troll post. It was definitely a troll post. They should have the feeds of all the social media places made public and just allow the companies to complete algorithms on display to the users. People would just game the systems. Like, once they would see what the algorithms are, they would just game them then, right? Like, the corporations are gonna figure out how to control information when it's in their best interest, right? Like, it's not gonna change anything. Like, everybody wants their best face forward. Like, we all try to control our information, right? Like, back when Facebook, like, having a perfect Facebook profile was important. Like, we all tried to control like what was on our Facebook page to like, what's on your LinkedIn, what's on your resume. We all try to control information, right? So, you're trying to say that like in a natural free market system, like somehow there would be truth out there, and it's not going to happen. So the question is like, whose truth would you like to be the public truth? And I guess I'd rather have like a nice board of non-profit people who like think about stuff and who are smart, like figuring it out versus anybody else that's like interested in making money. So it's just kind of weird, you know. I just don't think that like, I don't think that this like world of like Twitter like is ever like as a private corporation is ever going to be that. You're never going to have this like wonderful like, you know, place where we can all sit there and debate ideas with 160 characters with somebody who has a hidden name. You know, it's just with bots, you know, like it's such a weird pipe dream that like that Twitter can somehow be like your college freshman dorm room. Like, oh dude, we were all sitting around high, like banging out ideas, and man, we came to some great ideas. Like, no, you're not like, no fucking great idea is coming out of Twitter. Like nobody's sitting there banging out 160 characters being like, aha, we've come to genius. Thank goodness. This is better than Voltaire. Like, it's not fucking happening. Okay. It's a fucking corporate like mechanism to sell you shit and make, you know, God, like what's even on my Twitter feed right now? Like, I log into Twitter right now. What are they trying to sell me? So let's see what's trending for me here. I have They Can't Beat Us. I don't know what that is. Bitcoin, Chat GPT, America, Black. I don't know why that's trending in Taiwan. China, Vox Popula Y, Tesla. Tesla is trending. You know? Like, clear. And then I go into my feed. My first thing is, for some reason, I'm not even following these people, but like, winter is coming meme. Who wins the fight? No dragons. Like, clearly somebody trying to promote like the Game of Thrones brand. Then my next thing is, it's Tony Teflon celebrating the birthday of Snoop Dogg, and then trying to sell me a fucking Apple Watch. Okay, that's what I get when I go into Twitter. What? I don't know what people like want. Like,
that's what you got today? Fuck.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Mine was vastly different. Mine, I kind of want to file a complaint. What's happening on my shit is, what was trending for me is, unfortunately, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Brazil, The Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
I really ill on all those things.
Oh, They Can't Beat Us for some reason is Saving Warrior Nun. It's some movement to save Warrior Nun, I think. Like, it's like, this is all just, it's all selling us shit. Like, there's no purity to this fucking thing. Like, I don't know. It's just so silly. What do you think is the ultimate goal of the Dornish master plan and Rhaenys restoration? Does Doran want the Iron Throne through his Targaryen blood? No, I think Doran. I mean, the fundamental thesis of my Dornish master plan is that Doran wants a better world. Like, he wants a world with better laws and everything. He thinks that's achieved through Dornish law and bringing back the Rhaenys way of life. He fundamentally thinks that the Rhaenys way of life is a better way to live for the masses, and it also happens to be his heritage, and that he believes that Dornish law would place Arianne on the throne, or a Dornishman on the throne, not Targaryens. Like, he would want to get rid of Valyrians. Valyrians have brought nothing but horribleness to the world. So, like, his goal would be to get rid of all Targaryens, all Valyrians, and have like the Rhaenys way of life, like run the world would be the idea. Now, granted, this is, you know, this belief is through a lot of speculation, but, you know, the idea is that, like, if Doran like started coming up with his plan, like after he did his tour of Essos to find his wife, he went up the Rhoyne. He went up the Rhoyne backwards to get to Norvos. So he passed Croyane. So you kind of have to say, like, you're a Dornishman. You run Dorne, and you pass through Croyane. What do you think about, like, what do you think about the Dragon Lords at that point, having seen Croyane? And this is like, how did Tyrion see Croyane? And now imagine if Tyrion were Dornish and Rhoynar, like, how would he see Croyane? You know, I mean, this is like the difference between like I went to Auschwitz. Auschwitz is very moving. How does a Jewish person see Auschwitz? It's very moving for them too. Probably even more moving than it is for me. You know, is Auschwitz like going to Auschwitz is life changing for a lot of people. Like, don't you think going to Croyane would be life changing? Now, after going through like Auschwitz, do you think like a Jewish person would be like, yes, Nazi way is the way to go? Like, this is exactly the situation, right? Like, oh yeah, we got to get dragons. We got to do the Nazi thing. Like, no. You know, I think just like, you know, you gotta think about like Doran having gone to Croyane as like a fundamental, like, it's something that happened. Now, it hasn't been talked about yet. I think it will be in fan fiction, you know, very soon. But you know, speaking of Brazil, did you talk about that today? We did not talk about. I made a joke about it with Carmine earlier. But fucking A, right? They're just such copycats.
2 years and 2 days to the day, yeah. Wow, you already know me and you discussed this privately like a couple days ago when we recorded. Yeah, I'm trying to make my words very careful so I don't fuck your channel. But it's my opinion on this. If you don't mind if I give my opinion, if that's cool.
Sure.
It's the same thing I said to this guy on Twitter. You can look up my tweets with Ashley Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt was a traitor who fucked around and found out. And my only wish was that the rest of the traitors shared the same fate as her. And I say the same thing about these assholes in Brazil. I don't like Brazil. I have no allegiance to Brazil. If Brazil and the United States went to war, I'd side with the U.S. every time. But I'll say this: you know, Lula was elected democratically. Every one of those people inside that building rioting and, you know, defacing and doing all this stuff, you know, line them up against the wall, unmarked grave, and I'll leave it at that. And if you think otherwise, go fuck yourself. If you're an American who thinks otherwise, even to your own Jan 6, hand in your passport, hand in your papers, get the fuck out, personally speaking.
Yeah, it's a it's not that I don't have like weird sympathy for the people, because obviously they're tricked. They were told like through like bad information, and they're stupid and they're doing really dumb things about it, you know, trying to overthrow their government when there's a democratically elected person like in power, which also gives me some really weird feelings about Egypt, because like Egypt, you have like a perfectly democratically elected horrible leader, Morsi, who was such a bad leader that after a year, a coup with Sisi comes in and takes over. And it's like, that's pretty shitty. Coups are shitty. They're not democratically elected. And it's not like Sisi is gonna, like, has any plans to, like, you know, like, have like free and fair elections again. Like, it's or not for a long time. So it's also really shitty, you know, like, because like that was a situation where just like a horrible person was elected, but to like call the entire process illegitimate and to storm the Capitol and like commit acts of violence over just delusion. They're all delusional. January 6th was a bunch of delusional people too, you know. And yeah, I mean, Trump should be in jail over that. How he's not, I don't know. It's just, what are we doing?
Did you see the post I sent you on Facebook? Like, they even have their own shaman guy. Like they legit have their own. It's a like literal copy, with the
Yeah,
exception of I don't think
almost
anyone
to the
shit on the
day,
walls in
right?
there.
Like 3 days difference.
No, 2 years and
Two
2 days difference.
2 years and 2 days.
Hmm. By the way, real quick before we get off this topic, for those of you who are living outside the U.S. and Brazil, look at this very carefully. This shit's coming to a government near you. Most likely Australia, because shit's there is
Oh,
just as
Germany,
weird.
Germany, they caught the motherfuckers, right? Before they could do something.
Oh,
Yeah.
nip it in the bud. Nip it in the bud. It's not. It should not be controversial to say fuck Nazis. And they are. Because I don't know if you know this, but I saw some videos on the public freakout subreddit. Some of the Brazilians were literally marching and a couple weeks ago and doing the Heil Hitler. I'm sure some of those guys were at the
Oh
Capitol
God.
today.
Person's like, what happened in Brazil? They had a January 6th in Brazil. Like a bunch of like, so they had an election, a free and fair election. Lula won. Bolsonaro like lost. Bolsonaro pulled a Trump and was like, the vote was rigged. The vote was rigged, and then he literally went to Florida. He's in Florida right now. Okay, and so all of these people like went like organized to stop the steal, and they went to Brasilia, the capital, and they stormed Congress and did the exact same fucking thing that happened on January 6th. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how it was so identical.
They even had their own Q shaman guy. And you know what? A lot of people got arrested. The military came in. Someone was saying, I don't trust cops with that power. I'm not saying cops, because some of the cops, I'm sure, were in on it. We're seeing videos now of the cops being in on it as well. But no, get the military in there and take care of these guys. Because you never would see this shit happen in China and Russia. You never would. That shit would be taken care of immediately.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you want everyone to have, I don't, you want things to be diffused. In fact, I almost think the failure with January 6th and this is that things weren't diffused earlier. Like, there should have been resources put in place of people being like, dude, they're totally going to do this. Can we just like, not have them? Can we pull the permit for a speech? Can we like have more guards around the Capitol? Like, the fact that like we allowed that to happen is just embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, it's just needless. Just people getting tricked into doing stupid shit. It's just really really sad. Really really sad. But yeah.
Real quick, for those of you outside the U.S., if you can get your hands somehow on the Andrew Callahan Channel 5 documentary, This Place Rules, please watch it. Please watch it. Have
Yeah,
you seen it yet,
I
Preston?
watched it.
Holy shit, dude. Just
It's
the
funny.
man
It's almost I
calling
almost
Hillary
feel
a
bad.
pedo.
I almost feel bad for him. So like the after so Andrew Callahan, I don't know if you guys don't know, Andrew Callahan's this guy who used to have a YouTube channel called All Gas No Brakes. And he's a little off, and he admits that he's a little off. He doesn't really have any fear. And he also has this like incredible ability to just like ask people questions and then keep asking them and never do follow-up. And so he just lets people talk until they start saying crazy crap. Because once you like expose people for being nuts, like, they dig their own graves. And this is just what he does. He just keeps asking questions. And it started out like him just like going to party places and like interviewing people. And then he started like getting into politics because he has no fear. And he just would walk into the inner city, like where there's riots going on, this like white kid, and like go up to like rioters and be like, hey, what you doing? And there's like burning buildings everywhere. And they're like explaining what they're doing. And it's, in a sense, he became a much better journalist than most journalists, right? And he had to, but then All Gas No Brakes, his term and his thing, like, the company like was actually like gave him a really bad contract. So he left, and so now he calls himself Channel 5. And so when he left, Tim Heidecker of like, Adult Swim fame was like, dude, this kid's awesome. And he like funded this documentary. And so like, And it leads up to like it's him falling around like talking to like Trump crazies like leading up to January 6th, but then he gets COVID and he misses January 6th, which is like the most disappointing part. Like imagine if he were at January 6th. Oh my God, the stuff he would have seen. Oh man.
There's a guy in the doc who he's like, they're sitting at a Culver's, which by the way, if you're in the Midwest, try Culver's. It is fucking phenomenal. Blows In-N-Out burger out of the water. They're at a Culver's and the guy, he's holding up pictures of this old man is like, Hillary, yep, pedophile. Yep, Joe Biden, he's a pedophile. Sir, in the 90s, you were convicted of having sex with a 12-year-old boy in New Jersey and you pled no contest. Guilty to being a pedophile yourself. What do you say?
Are you perhaps projecting? He's like, it's like no.
Oh God. Oh man.
So what does the universe where Prince Doran is successful look like in each of the 7 kingdoms and the free cities look like? I mean, I think for someone like Doran, he's just thinking that it looks like Dorne, like I think a lot of these leaders don't think about how things would actually look like on the ground. But I think we've been introduced to Dornish law for a reason. And besides just Ariane's failed attempt, because he has, when he puts Ariane in her tower, he puts in a book of Dornish law. And so I think like Dornish law, and she fails to read it, but like Dornish law is clearly part of his plan. He clearly wants that to be, it's related somehow. But he just, why, so it may be that, he wants Dornish law to rule all. That's certainly Culver's versus In-N-Out. This Convos is going to start a fight. Look, if you go like Culver's, In-N-Out, Five Guys, like it's all the fucking same. Like once you have fresh, because once you have fresh ground beef, it's fresh ground beef. Like I get it.
True, he's right.
It's fresh ground beef. It's a great burger at that point because it's fresh ground beef, never frozen. But like,
yeah,
you can't improve on that. Like you can't. Like it doesn't. Like Culver's, In-N-Out, and Five Guys are the same. It's all. They're all really delicious hamburger. Like you can't like get any better than that. Like what are you gonna do?
Culver's has the best tendies. Oh my God, their chicken tenders are so fucking good, and they're like. Their ice cream is pretty good. Everything on Culver's menu is fucking amazing. That's the only redeeming part about how shitty the Midwest is Culver's. Phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. Freddy's, whatever. Freddy's is whatever.
All right. Cheese curds for the win. I mean, it's one of the few places you get cheese curds outside of Wisconsin.
Really good.
Yeah. No, they taste different. I don't know, man. It's just it's a burger's a burger's a burger. It's probably like they taste different because that particular place like cooked it a little different, but like because like they didn't clean the grill enough or there's someone behind the counter like did something weird.
Five Guys is just fucking expensive. And by the way,
it is
quick. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. Here's the secret to Mr. Beast's whole financial operation.
Why do people have such a beef with Mr. Beast?
My beef with Mr. Beast is how expensive his fucking food is. Holy shit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was confusing you with Mr. Beats. Or
Beats?
Who's the YouTuber? No, it is Mr. Beast. Is it Mr. Beast?
No, it's Mr. Beast. Yeah. Yeah, the guy that throws money around like an insane person. Yeah.
Oh, that guy, Mr. Beast. I'm also like confusing him with Mr. Beats. Who's the guy that called every member of Congress?
Oh, that's a guy. There's a guy that did that.
Yeah.
Look at this. I gotta show you this shit. Look at this. Look at this shit. Hold on.
No, that's Mr. Beat. I'm sorry. There's two fairly big YouTubers, Mr. Beast and Mr. Beat. And like people have people got their problems, yeah. But
Hold on, let me show you this shit. So Mr. Beast is the most overrated. Like, his burgers are the most overrated. You have to see this. Like, I was gonna go on a tangent about Five Guys being expensive. This is a Mr. Beast menu, Preston. It is. What is this?
All right. Look,
what the fuck is this? $14 for
that's stupid. That's stupid.
Overly seasoned.
All of this is stupid because okay. For this is like a very American conversation, but like, I used to love this movie called Barcelona, and one of the funniest, it's about these Americans living in Spain in 1980, dealing with anti-Americanism, and he's like, everybody thinks Americans are stupid, and you know why? And the guy's like, why? And he's like, because have you had a hamburger here? And they're like, yeah, they're horrible, and it's like, that's right, and they know that Americans love hamburgers. And they think these are hamburgers. And so they think we're stupid. And it's like, they've never been to America. They don't know how good a hamburger can be. So here's the thing about these like best fucking burger bullshit and the search for the best burger. Okay. First of all, okay, you will never have the best burger at a burger joint. And the reason you'll never have the best burger at a burger joint is because they won't really cook it rare for you. Okay, and your best burger is going to be rare. So, first off, like, you can only have the best burger by simply going to the fucking grocery store, buying fresh ground beef, going back to your own charcoal grill, filling it with some fucking charcoal, and grilling yourself a fucking rare burger. And then grab some of those fucking potato rolls, you know, at the bread aisle, slop it together, and you've got the fucking best burger that you're ever going to have. Okay, that's it. That's all you have to do. This whole like search for the best burger, who has the best burger? It's fucking ground beef cooked. Like you can't fuck it up. You can't fuck it up. And you can't like go that much further with it. Once you get to the point where you haven't frozen it and you haven't overcooked it, like, it's just going to be fucking ground beef. It's fucking ground beef is ground beef is ground beef. Like, fuck the fucking, like, search for the best burger. Like, there's no secret here. It's just fucking ground beef.
Man, I gotta disagree with you, because I don't know what the fuck kind of bullshit meat they're using at Beast Burgers, at least the one near me, but it's overly seasoned, which makes it taste bad.
That's the thing. You don't need to season it. You don't need to season. Have you seen? Did you watch History,
American History X?
No. Our boy Nick Hodges. Have you watched Nick Hodges?
Nick Hodges, yeah.
Yeah, have you watched his latest video?
The video where about McDonald's.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet.
Okay, so this gets into like why McDonald's was so successful and like why the original McDonald's, I'm talking even before like the franchising came in, but like why McDonald's became successful. And it's like the dudes realized that, like, okay, unlike chicken and everything else, you don't need to do anything to beef. It's a real simple process. Like, so back in the 50s, people were getting money and they wanted to eat out. But the problem is that everywhere you ate out, like you go to the malt shop and you sit in your car and you wait for the roller skate girl to come out. You were waiting like 30 to 40 minutes for your order to come out. Because French fries took a long time, the burgers, the chicken, they had all these different products. And so the McDonald's guys that made the original McDonald's in California were like, fuck that. We have 3 products. We got 4 products. You can buy burgers, you can buy fries, you can buy Coke, and you can buy some milkshakes. That's it. That's all we're gonna have. And because they realized that like cooking all the other stuff like took a bunch of time. It was very time consuming having all these different cooking products in there. And beef, Americans liked beef, and beef was super easy to cook and you didn't have to season it. Okay, and that was the main thing. I mean, other than some fucking salt and maybe some pepper, like that's it. And so their whole money-making franchise on the original McDonald's was, we're just going to fucking cook beef because beef is easy and Americans like beef. And it fucking worked. Now, I understand that, like, that's the exact opposite of the current McDonald's, like, marketing strategy now, which is about individualism and having this vast array of different products, you know. But like the original thing was get down to the basics, like stay on the clit, stay on the clit, stay on the clit. Like stop going around messing up with other shit, like stay on the clit. And that's what they did with beef, right? Like Americans like beef. They just want some fucking beef. Just give them beef. We can cook that fast. And the McDonald's was putting out burgers in 5 minutes, and you didn't have to sit in your car and wait for the roller skate girl and for fucking 30 minutes. And that's how McDonald's won the world, you know? So like, there's nothing to beef. It's beef. It's fuck. I think there's a fucking episode of Parks and Rec about this. It's beef. Go to the grocery store, buy yourself some fresh beef, throw it on your charcoal grill, fucking cook a rare burger. That's the best burger you're ever going to have. I've had people tell me personally.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to take you to this place in Jersey. I'm going to take you to this other place in Jersey. I'm going to tell you, even though it's beef, it tastes different. I'm telling you right now. There's some part like
no. Okay, I'll tell you. Somebody asked, and this is a really good point. This is a really fucking good point. Okay, and I'll tell you why people fuck up beef. Okay, I've had a lot of barbecues, and somebody's like ground beef versus ground beef. We're talking 80-20, 95-10. Come on, that's a very good point. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to amend things. Aggro Crag made a very good point. Okay, a lot of people fuck up. They go to the grocery store and they're like, well, I don't want the fatty beef. No, you get the most fatty fucking beef there. You get the 80-20. Actually, you get the 70-30. I think there's a 70-30. You get the 70-30. You get the fattiest beef there. You do not be like, well, I want beef. I want lean. No, you don't. You want the fattiest fucking beef you can find. You grab that fresh, not frozen. You grab the fat. I will tell you, I've had a million barbecues, and once that happened at night. And that's the best. That's the key. Because you give somebody a burger that's pink in the middle, and they'll bite it, and they'll be like, I don't think this is done. And you're like, oh my God, you fucking pussy. It's fucking done. Okay? You're ruining the burger if you're cooking it too much. Okay? So when these people were eating burgers in the dark, where they didn't know they were eating something bloody, they were like, I literally have had people tell me, this is the best burger I've ever had. Like, what did you do? And it's like, I don't want to tell them, like, because it's fucking rare. Like, because it's a bloody fucking burger and you, like, really love the taste of, or that it's the fattiest beef I could find. Because that's what makes a fucking burger. Fattiest beef. Let me check, like, is it 70-30? 70-30 beef? Yeah, you want to go for the 70-30. 70-30 beef, rare, on the grill, on a charcoal grill, maybe a little bit of salt. You don't even necessarily need it. Like, and that's it. You're done. Get some. Buy the Vlasic pickles, the hard ones. Cut it yourself, crisp ones. Get some lettuce and tomato, Heinz ketchup, French's mustard, easy fucking shit. Maybe some bacon if you want. Best burger you'll ever have. You don't need any of this other stuff. Okay? Stop making it complicated. Stay on the fucking clit. Like, don't make it complicated.
Stay on the what?
That sounds disgusting. This is your problem, man. That's the thing, is they're ruining it. Anyway, I missed this. Like, I'm sorry for getting getting off of like the Dornish thing about like feudalism and stuff. I understand that feudalism is still horrible and everything. I get it. Like, but the Dornish law is supposed to like send things in a better direction. Yes. But yes, I'm feeding bloody burgers to people in the dark. Yes, I am. Okay. Fucking like. Jesus Christ, like, it's amazing. It's amazing that, like, how have you people stopped? Like, this is why people are like, oh, Preston's, like, not so American. No, I'm fucking American. Like, pickles and tomatoes on the side, stay on the clip. Maybe. Like, but yeah, man, like, you've gotta like, how are people like fucking up being American so badly? It's so fucking easy. Like, okay, why do you want with that? Don't mess this up. I mean, you get a Merlot, man. You get a fucking Merlot. Nice drinkable red wine. You're good. Or just a fucking Coca-Cola. Like, yeah, cheese is good. Also, don't fuck up the cheese, okay? This is what American Singles Velveeta fucking processed cheese is for. Don't go buy cheddar and have it be clumpy and shit. Like, or I've got my special pepper jack. Fuck yourself. Get the goddamn American Singles. This is what it was designed for. Designed for. Processed cheese was designed for melting well and blending with a burger. You go American cheese if you're gonna go cheese. Just fucking, like, how people are fucking this up. Like, it's so fucking easy and they keep fucking it up. It's like they're fucking, it's like I'm a bunny rabbit. It's like you're this wolf with these big claws and you're like, how do I fucking kill this bunny? How do I fucking kill the bunny? You're fucking, like it's so fucking easy. As Preston eated on the stream. Maybe. If you want a cab, look, you drink whatever wine you want. If you want a cab, you can have a cab. But too much fat. Well, I mean, look, if you don't want it to be healthy, like, then, get out of the game. Like, I'm talking like what's going to be the best fucking burger. It's going to be fresh beef, 70-30, cooked rare on a charcoal grill. Like, just like, don't screw it up.
I actually want you to make this for me. I want it because I never go rare. I always go medium.
Go rare, dude. Go rare. I'm serious, dude.
I will try rare because when I don't even make burgers anymore. The way I like to do it, I like to make the chopped cheese. And what's frustrating about the Midwest is I can't order beef out here because they over season everything. I fucking hate it. I went to a Cracker Barrel. That steak like showered in salt before it arrived to me. So what I just make out here is, and this is sad. This is very sad. I have Amazon fastest delivery send me an Amoroso rolls from Pennsylvania. The Amoroso rolls is like the gold standard of hoagie bread. What I'll do is I'll get 80-20 chuck, chop that bitch up, put some salt, pepper. Actually, no, not pepper, but salt, cayenne pepper, onion powder, garlic powder all over it. Chop it up, lettuce, tomato, a little bit of onions, grilled, of course, and wrap that up just like Haji's in Harlem. This is the best way. It's not a burger, but chopped cheese, very good. Cheese, of course, Kraft cheese, yellow. That's how I do it.
Yeah. It's like, we thought the man was opinionated about battle tactics and economics, but no, burgers. Burgers are his top battleground. I mean, it's just like you're talking like the thing that's like this is like me being American, like me being straight up American, like telling you like objectively how to make the best fucking burger and not how to fuck it up. Like come on. Maybe I should mix onions in with the burger and add a little. No, just.
Oh, I have to ask: do you smash your burgers? Because I like to do that whenever I do very rarely.
This is what I do. I don't buy, like, a lot of people like do the whole bowl thing. So you can buy, when you buy the beef, they have these perfect like tubes in America that are like this. In other countries, you might see them as dog food, but in America, we sell beef in these tubes of beef, and they're perfect in that you just cut it open, you squeeze one end like a tube of toothpaste, and you cut, and you got a perfect patty. Now it's going to be a little loose, and some people like to pack stuff up. You don't need to. Just fucking cut that tube, cut that slice, put it right on the grill. It might be a little loose, but like you're not gonna like smash things up and everything will cook right, Yeah, but our hot dog sandwiches, I mean, they are when you like run out of hot dog buns and you break them in half and you put them in the burger bun.
By the way, real quick, because now we're entering food, which is like my terror. I had to shut my shit down. By the way, if you're ever gonna like do a hot dog, like normal hot dog bun, whatever the fuck, take the hot dog, cut it in the middle, and grill that bitch, and put a buddy of mine from Seattle told me about this. Put some cream cheese on the bun. with the hot dog, and of course, peppers and onions if you prefer that. And yeah, I tried that. Very good. Cream cheese out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Boom. Very
What the
delicious.
fuck? You serve beef tube rare? Oh my god, dude! You don't even understand. Like, the beef tube is fine. Like, do you think there's an effective difference between the beef tube and like your like styrofoam tray with the saran wrap? Do you think there's like a different cow that came from? Do you think that like do like what's it's the same shit. It's fresh unfrozen beef. No, it's not true. It's not it also doesn't matter as long as it hasn't been frozen. It doesn't matter. Look, I'm telling you, man, the people that are like, oh, this is the best burger I've ever had, have the tube stuff. Now, granted, the saran wrap stuff is going to be the same. I'm just saying, like, don't mash it too much, because you don't want to smash too.
You know what you should do? I'm actually curious to see how you prepare this. Would you be down to like put a GoPro on your head and like prepare this like Kenji Lopez Holt?
I don't have my charcoal grill here in
You don't need a
Taiwan.
charcoal grill. Cast iron. Let's make that shit on cast iron.
No, fried burger is a completely different taste.
You're talking about specifically charcoal grill. That's how you do it.
Yeah, I'm talking about grill. Like, you're not gonna get that taste for a burger in a frying pan. No, what the fuck? No, like what? What are you fucking talking about? You're not
That's
gonna
what I use cast iron pan.
You're not gonna get even with a gas grill, like it's not gonna be like gas grill's gonna be okay, but you're not gonna get it without like a good charcoal. I mean, come on. Oh man.
Curious to see how you do this.
Yeah. They say that flash frozen vegetables are fresher because they're flash frozen right there in the field. Maybe, but these are fundamentally different like cells. Like human cells, animal cells like have different cell walls. I think they rupture or something. Yeah. But anyway. Yeah, it's all achievable to get my charcoal grill, but it's like am I gonna bother? Am I gonna bother? Yeah, the styrofoam tray was packaged in the store, but it's not like they've got the cow getting slaughtered right there. They're just getting a big tub. They're just getting a big massive tub of meat that they're sometimes they're getting the beef and they put it through the shredder. Sometimes at the grocery store. It depends which grocery store. Every grocery store is different on how much their butcher is like doing stuff. But they're not. It's not the slaughterhouse. So whatever. It's so I should stop using my microwave to make burgers. Believe it or not, like, look, I'm not saying a microwave burger is good, but it's not the worst thing. Microwaves are actually pretty good at making hot dogs and bacon. Actually, I'd say microwave bacon is actually the best bacon. So microwaves have their place, but I'm not saying microwave burgers are horrible. They're not. In fact, I might actually even prefer a microwave burger to a fried burger. But you're gonna do best with your grill. Come on. But yes, isn't this the most A Song of Ice and Fire thing possible? Yes. Now I've been on here 3.5 hours. Update on the fanfic. John Con is coming along. Hopefully I'll have it before I go on vacation, because I'm going on vacation Saturday morning to Palau. So I'll see. But anyway, I've been on here 3.5 hours. Thank you, Carmine, for being on me.
Does that mean no stream next week or the week after?
No stream next week. No stream the week after.
Oh no!
Yeah. Microwave bacon is the best. Are you 12? Microwave bacon is the best. But real quick, I guess Michelin rankings. I've heard them a scam. I've never been to a Michelin star restaurant that wasn't fucking fantastic. But at the same time, I don't know about if it's going to be the best in the city. The stuff I really like are rarely like Michelin star. I usually like something a little dirtier and more real. than frothy foam, kind of weird, small portion kind of stuff. But anyway, thank you, Randyll, and I'll see you guys in a few weeks, 3 weeks or so, and then talk to you guys later. But thank you, Carmine, for being with me this long, and thank you everybody for staying with me. All right, talk to you guys later.
Of course.